There we are.
Screen. So
Do we have a tweet yet? Or
we do have a tweet. Yes.
Oop,
You had one
me
earlier.
switch.
Do you have another one?
I just did, I think. Hopefully. Did I? Or did I not press tweet on it? Which is also
No,
a possibility.
we're live with
No, I did it. Okay. I did the thing.
Did the thing.
Yeah, not having TweetDeck
No.
anymore is making my life like so much harder with
Oh,
that,
did
too.
they like block functionality of?
Yeah, well, they basically said, well, this is going to be a Twitter Blue thing, and it doesn't work anymore because they broke the site. So,
man, it's
so it's
come on, Blue Sky, hurry up.
Yeah, well,
hurry your shit up.
soon enough, I will get whoever I can pull over there. But they haven't given me any invites yet, so it is nice over there, but also very lonely. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And honestly, the only reason I say Blue Sky is because I can't imagine anything else winning once it's out, but I could totally be wrong about that.
I mean, Threads could win just by default, but that would be terrible also.
By first mover advantage, yeah.
Yeah.
Mastodon does
not even really first.
Mastodon's like horrific.
It's getting better, but it's also just like it's like Linux on the desktop. Like it's just not going to happen.
I'm on an island and I can talk to people on my island, but there's other islands and some of them can shout at my island, but I'm not sure which ones can do that. And so I want to shout back, but I don't know who I'm shouting at. And then all the people on my island tell me to shut up because I shouted at the wrong island. And I don't know. Yeah, I just don't understand.
It's getting better that way, but it's just like, because I have some friends who are over there. That's the only way I get to talk to them. But it's like, it's still like too complicated for normal humans. And like, as soon as you get in and like you have to pick a server and it's like, well, what do I want in a server? Because like, the admin, if you get on a place with like a bad admin, then just like it's a bad time. And like there was one guy who just like was running one big instance, just like, screw it, I'm out, and just shut the thing down like the next day, and everybody just started scrambling, having to move around, and like, okay, well that's
just sank the island.
Yeah,
it's just gone.
Just nuked it from orbit. It's the only way to be sure, and So yeah, it's. I mean, Blue Sky seems better in that way, but it's still just like not opening up fast enough. So.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay, so I guess we're pretty much set. I've got the 9 cards loaded in the thing in OBS, and
just Titans.
Okay. Just Titans. Oops, all Titans.
That would be plenty of cards.
Episode. Yes.
Yeah.
It's enough.
I mean, they haven't revealed anything else yet, right?
No, they haven't. Yeah. So, and even if they did, I would probably just say, just keep it.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah.
Okay. So.
And they're all interesting. I don't know. There's a lot going on.
Hey, Deseldorn, good to see you. All right, so I guess we can start recording.
Whoa.
And
you want me to press this button?
Press the red button.
The big red button.
The red button. Did you see that? I'm going to press play and start. Okay, good.
Yep.
It's recording.
Okay, and as long as you're seeing things happening when you're talking, we already tested it, so it should be good. And then we usually count down a clap just so that Edel can sync all the tracks together when she's editing. So we do that. Yep. We count down 3, 2, 1, clap, and then we clap. We do that twice just to give her some things to see to line everything up. Mostly.
Yeah. You almost have to go based on the visual rather than.
I was going to have to perform
rather than the count.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I got this.
3, 2, 1, clap. 3, 2, 1, clap. Yeah, you're good. You're probably about as good as that's actually better than average. Ones. Yes.
Yeah.
Believe it or not.
Why am I so early on the clap?
Because it's this delay is internet connections is all a number of things.
It has to go across an ocean, right? So
yeah,
actually you should be later, I guess. I don't know.
I have to figure out the drift anyway. It's a whole thing. But yeah, it'll be fine.
All right. So starting the show in 5, 4, 3, 2.
I grant you permission to speak. Shadows hide you. I am listening. Our paths converge.
So good to see you.
Hail to you! Never lose hope.
Here for a chat.
I hear you. It has only begun. Fight on, friend!
Welcome to episode 403 of Coin Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Saturday, July 8th, 2023 in the evening. Well, evening very evening for one of us, and less evening for the rest of us. Coming to you from Nomergan, Ohio, it's me, Edelweiss. And from Northrend, Massachusetts, we have Wicked Good.
Hi.
And from Dragonblight, is this Lincolnshire?
It is, yeah. Lincolnshire.
We have Lorinda coming from across the pond. This is why we're doing Saturday. Count for time difference.
Hi, and thanks for making special allowances to make it at least vaguely comfortable for my time zone. Appreciate that a lot. So you'll get me half awake at least, which is good. Well, bad. We'll find out.
I was surprised that this ended up being the time that worked out. I assumed we'd be doing like midday for us on Saturday, but whatever works. We are happy to have finally gotten you on. And of course, joining us from all around the world, we have you listeners. Thank you all for your reviews, Patreon support, etc. If you'd like to support the show, if you would like to support the show and cannot do so monetarily, you can always leave us a 5-star review on your podcast feed of choice. So we are going to do an interview with Lorinda. I feel like most people should know who you are, but for anyone that doesn't know you, could you give us sort of a background of your history with Hearthstone, how you got into the game, maybe how you got into casting, fill us in.
Sure, yeah. So I used to play Magic back in the day, and one of my friends from Magic got me into Hearthstone just after beta. I couldn't get a key, so I sort of waited until season 1, I think it was. Moved across to Hearthstone because many reasons. People who played the other game will probably have a good idea what they were. Mm-hmm. And I've always loved card games. I've always been good at card games, or relatively good at card games. As I found out when I came here, I'm not actually that good at card games. Tried to compete, was a bit too old and a little bit not quite good enough. So decided to try casting it. I decided to do wherever I ended up, and I ended up casting it, which was interesting. And yes, now I spend a lot of time, or less time than I used to, because there's less of it to cast. But now I spend a lot of time still casting quite a lot of Hearthstone. The last 3 or 4 years was covered with Grandmasters and Masters Tours, and before that was anyone who would have me who hadn't already got somebody good. They had me instead. So that was always good fun.
Well, you, in addition to casting, have been doing a lot more streaming. I don't know if it's just recently or if you've always done this, but I feel like you've picked up a bit more recently. Yes, am I wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I guess it depends how you define recently, but and on your stream, you've focused on jamming a single deck for weeks on end, despite shifts in the meta, or how well you feel like you're doing with it. Wicked wrote this, not me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm no lies detected, though. I mean, like, I'm not saying anything that's not true.
It's stretching the truth a bit, but it's kind of true. So when I was casting the last 3 or 4 years, which were really busy years, I never get the chance to go very deep into things. You want to as a caster, you want to give nuance, but you need to know every matchup something to say about it. And that leads to you not really being very deep on any matchup, but it's good enough to commentate. 90% of the people who watch those tournaments, maybe even 95, will never reach legend. So you can't go too deep. You need to explain the basics. And if you haven't played all of the matchups a bit, you don't even know the basics. This year, there's a lot less casting. And so I was able to start streaming again. I started off in 2014 as an arena streamer. Then every time I have lots of casting, I don't stream. And then I stream when I'm not casting. And I literally like to play the same deck for several weeks. It's slightly exaggerated to say I've only played one, but I do play decks for, let's say, 2 to 3 weeks at a time. And so I can learn a lot of the more nuanced plays, when exactly to do things in mulligans, when exactly to kill a minion that you might not normally kill. I think I had a really good understanding of the Evolved Shaman versus the Frost DK matchup back in February. which other people saying wasn't favoured, and I was running at 53% in top 100. Like, you play a deck enough in a meta that's polarized enough, and you do beat the other people because they're not used to the matchup, and you are. So it's a totally new experience that I'm really enjoying trying out. But yeah, I do play more than one deck, honestly.
Yeah. Well, you don't switch. I mean, I'm speaking from having ADHD, right? And I tend to get frustrated and just switch, in the middle of a stream, let alone like weeks on end. But also, I think the really cool thing about your stream in particular is that you attract a number of high level players that are in chat constantly. Some a little bit more blunt than others in terms of their commentary, but it's like both that you get to see your plays and how you're approaching it, but also like getting to, like, real time commentary from a number of high legend players, Masters Tour competitors, etc., as you're playing, and like learning along with you as you're learning some of those decks, especially at the beginning.
Yeah, it's something I've been very lucky with, and I've encouraged it. I think some streamers don't like being backseated, and I make my play, and then the good players say, "Hey, this was idiotic because you should have done this." Do you want the subtle story? Have we got time for the subtle story?
Sure, go for
Sure,
it. We got
go
time for a
for
subtle.
it.
We always have time
2014
for a subtle story.
Yeah, exactly. So 2014, 2015, probably 2014, when I first started streaming, Sotul used to come and backseat and help me out, and he's helped me out a lot in my career. Don't tell him I said that. I'm sure he's not here listening. And there was one day where chat was sort of like, "Why are you always picking on Lorinda? Why don't you just let Lorinda do his thing? Why don't you let Lorinda play the game?" And Sotul was like, "Well, yeah, I like try to help." And Sotul asked me there and then, "Look, do you want me to help you, or do you want me to leave you alone? If I help you, I'll do it the way I want to do it, but I will help you and you will get better. And if you want me to leave you alone, that's fine. I'll leave you alone and I'll go. But I need you to back me if we're going to do this." So I said, "Yeah, go for it." And he's been there, helping every day since. And it's made a massive difference. Like, I've got to credit him with a lot of help. But yes, the way he sometimes comes across does mean I have to explain to chat, this person has permission to treat me like this. He's allowed. His payment is he gets to call me an idiot. That's what he gets out of it. What I get out of it is I get better at Hearthstone. So it's a fair price to pay.
Yeah, I think there's kind of this learning curve to listening to Sotul, where it's like, no, you have to understand, Sotul has people's back, and he's very generous and kind, but he is honestly like people from Philadelphia. They will like tell you what you're doing wrong, and they'll sound like a jerk about it, but they're still trying to help you.
Yeah, it's good. And other people have followed his lead now to the point where I have to tell some people, "Look, you are not Sotul, you are not Banterface, you are not
Right.
Pocket.
Yeah.
You have to behave. You have to be good at Hearthstone to tell me what to do."
Yeah.
Mhm.
If you don't have a sword or a diamond next to your
I'm
name,
not
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But so, do you recommend this, like, just hyper focus on a single or very few decks for people who are like trying to improve?
Yeah, so you need a balance. You need to play the things that beat you, so you know how you beat them back. And I don't necessarily do that enough. That's a weakness in my style. If you're constantly losing to Hunter, you should probably fire up Hunter for a day and work out why you're losing to it, and work out, well, they haven't always got the things in their hand that are beating you. However, if you're going to get to Legend, if you are struggling, if you're sort of Diamond 10, Diamond 5, and you can't quite make that last jump, you will get so much better at a deck if you play it and play it and play it that you cannot believe. These top players, they need less time on a deck to pick up all the nuance, but if you're a Diamond player or Plat player or any player who's trying to improve, pick a deck that suits your style and get good at it. Don't ask top players, "Oh, what deck gets to Legend?" If you've heard of the deck, it can get to Legend. If it's on HS Replay, if it's hanging around somewhere, it can get to Legend. You don't need to play the rank 1 Legend deck, because guess what? There's probably 4 different decks in top 10 Legend played by people who understand that deck. So yeah, I would highly recommend just jamming the same deck until, again, with moderation in terms of learning what you're losing to. Just jam the deck and try things out, and don't be scared to lose until you start winning.
Yeah. I mean, case in point, Pocket Train is what, 5 Legend with Naga Mage right now? Like you're
Mhm.
not going to. I guarantee you, if you just pick up that deck and you try to play it, because I tried on stream last night, and it went very, very, very poorly. Like if you just, as a normal human being, try to pick up that deck and try to grind the legend with it, you can get there, but it will take you a lot longer than you think it's going to, because most people are not pocket trained.
Challenge accepted. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm having too much fun with Twist.
Yeah.
Um,
Are you having fun with Twist? Okay. But case in point for me, I played Mindlock, and I went like 40% over, let's say, 200 games. Those numbers are made up, but it was that sort of order. And when you start winning and you close that gap and you turn the corner, and suddenly you're 58% for the next 500 games, it's like, this is worth it. This is worth the pain, because now I'm unstoppable. And then they nerf it and you're rubbish again. But yeah.
Well, you need to find all the different ways that you can lose, and then you eventually see all those, and then you stop doing that eventually. So it takes some people longer than others, but you know,
Sure does. It sure does.
it takes me a lot longer too. So
I mean, Mindlock, I think it was more math memorization of like, okay, having these pieces together means I have this much damage, because I think a lot of the skill with that deck was realizing when you have lethal, because sometimes it's earlier than you thought.
or just realizing that you have a bomb in the bin, like or
Bomb
not.
in the You've watched way too much of my stream. You are picking
I
up those
have.
catchphrases.
Yes, you keep me busy when you keep me entertained when I'm not in endless meetings during the day. So, which is unfortunately a lot rarer than it used to be. But
I think I'm usually
Honestly, one of the things I've learned this year about climbing with various decks is which mistakes you're allowed to make. Like if you're playing Miracle Rogue, you are allowed to not play everything in the right order, but you're not allowed to run out of time. Like if some of your cards are played in the wrong order, if your ghost is an 11-11 instead of a 14-14, if you miss a card draw, you're allowed to make those mistakes with that deck. You're better off if you don't. You should be a bit annoyed, but just finish the turn. Don't sit there and try and perfect everything and end up just not doing anything and having a 6/6 ghost and loads of cards in your hand and floating 6 mana. Just make the right mistakes is actually a really important thing to learn for people who aren't pocket trained.
Oh, see, that's my issue. I will like do the things and then not have a ghost and be like, well, uh-oh.
Yeah, it took me 400 games or something to work out that actually that's the wrong way to do it. Just making mistakes is not the criminal thing. It's making the wrong mistakes.
Well, in terms of the casting,
Okay.
do you have any advice for people that are interested in getting into casting? Maybe even, not Hearthstone specific, if that's possible to do.
I mean, the number one piece of advice that I was given once again by Sotor, I hate mentioning him so much. It's going to really help his ego. But I passed it down to many people and they've all agreed in the end, is have fun. Just enjoy doing it. Don't try and be somebody else. Just work out what you enjoy doing when you're talking about the game and do exactly that. If you copy one of your favorite casters, you're going to do the same thing, but worse than them. So do what you enjoy doing, whatever makes you laugh inside. Just do that, and you'll have fun, and people pick up on it. Because guess what? On the Masters Tour cast last time, there were 6 of us, and all 6 of us do different things, and different people like different casters for different reasons. But you can't please everybody. So yeah, have fun. Just have fun. That's the only advice you need. All the rest is debatable.
I don't even know what I do. I just talk. That's just. I just talk until I am not supposed to talk anymore, and.
You're supposed to talk a lot though, because you're the one out of us that actually knows how to play this game. So we kind of need you. It kind of helps.
Otherwise there's just going to be like watermelon discussion for 15 minutes, right? And then, I mean, some people enjoy that, but not all the time.
I mean, me and TJ have had the same discussion going on for the last 3 years. It's fine. We only have one discussion. We just talk about boats. I think it is. I don't even know anymore. We just continue the same flow of consciousness forever. It's great.
You have to have something to fall back on when the priest mirrors or blood decay hits, or it's just like, all right, what are we talking about today?
yeah, exactly. And that's actually, so that's the number 2 thing. I'm big on it. You don't have to do this to cast, but preparation. If you're nervous, have some notes written down, including things like, what am I casting? Because no one would ever go to Dream Hack and say, welcome to Insomnia, would they? No one would ever do that to open up their first big show. It's fine. I didn't do that. Oh, no, wasn't me. Never saw a thing. So you write down things like what you're casting.
Well, that takes us to the quicker hits here. So what is your favorite class for Hearthstone?
I'm not very good at favourites, but I didn't know this question was coming, so I had to think about it. I think Warlock overall, not right now.
Sure.
But I'm from the era when you learned where, hey, Warlock has tempo, it has card draw, it has life risk reward, or health total risk reward.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that in terms of the very, very fundamentals, put it on paper and what would you like most, I think Warlock is the best fundamental card game class. But what I like most at the moment, don't know. I keep changing my mind.
I like that answer because I have to agree. It's not that way now, but there was a time where it was like Zoo Warlock, fundamentals. There's a little bit of everything, tap first in majority of situations, right? So you're like managing, your life total and making sure you have enough cards and trying to eke out damage, when to trade and when to go face, because Zulok was so board based, but it still had Sunburn and
Positioning.
it even had positioning when we had Direwolf index. I think some people aren't sad to see that go away, but I liked the time of Direwolf and Flame Tongue Totem positioning. I thought that was good.
We have hound positioning now when you're defending, I guess. Sometimes people taunt on the right or the left. Hey, that's the
cleave
thing.
positioning. I think people have been.
And
been
sometimes you
starting to do
get
that more
flame
for
tongue
sure.
totems in Shaman with the remix dude who summons a totem.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just end up with a flame tongue, and then you have to remember how to play with flame tongue because you don't actually put it in the deck, and nobody's played with flame tongue in like 3 years. But
people play piloted shredder for like 2 years and put it in the middle every time just in case, and it never once ever dropped a totem of any sort or a wolf. It never happened, so it just didn't matter. But chat loved it anyway if you put it in the wrong place.
Piloted shredders only drop Doomsayers when I play.
Yeah, of course.
So,
They do. Oh, that's the score point. I lost
what's my out?
Final.
Frostbolt the shredder. Oh, Doomsayer. Great, we live.
Yeah, I lost a massive semi-final to, well, it wasn't massive, it was a small, but big to me semi-final to Crane, because he hit that exact out.
I bet he hasn't let
Not
you
that
forget
I'm
about
worried
that
about
either.
it for 6 years. I mean, to him it was Tuesday, right? To him, he just didn't remember it at all. To me, it was the biggest game of my life.
I know how that goes.
He literally won another tournament at the same time, quite literally.
Oh God. Okay, well, to move on from that, what would be your favorite deck of all time?
All right, so it's incredibly out of character for me, and I think Wicked should just not listen for the next minute or two. But Razaka's Priest was my favorite deck.
Oh no, that's great.
I will not at all use this against you ever.
And I'm not a Highlander enjoyer. So yeah, but something about that deck I found incredibly enjoyable. I think it was the fact that even though a lot of the things you did didn't matter, there were a lot of things you could do slightly wrong, and that was at a time when I did get to jam a deck for 2 or 3 months and not have to worry about other decks. So I enjoyed that part as well.
I remember there was oh God, I forget what it was called, the rat race, right? For who could make it to legend first. And because it was back with no ranked floors, everyone started at 25, and every level was 5 stars. This was like the uber grind, and it was like Razaka's Priest and Jade Druid, and I hated Jade Druid, and my poor laptop could not handle Razaka's Priest. So I was sitting there, doing my best in this thing. It was the only time I ever tried it, and I think after 19 hours of being awake, I was like, I'm done. I'm going to sleep. I forget how far I made it, but I was like, at this point, people have already like gotten there. There's no way I can catch up. and I was, probably playing some aggro deck that my laptop could handle. But
Wow.
yeah, eventually, I admired Rozaka's Priest from watching you all cast it and stuff, and just seeing the incredible amounts of damage it could do, even to Jade Druid, where it was like some people were like, "Oh no, Jade Druid's favored because they can get so much armor." But sometimes Rozaka's Priest would just like hit everything on curve.
The
And
mirror was super interesting too. for that
yeah,
priest deck. Like there was literally hand dependent and coin dependent, like massive spreadsheets of do you play Northshire Cleric on one or not,
mhm.
and it was dependent on exactly what the other 2 or 3 cards in your hand were and exactly what you were going to do. Because if you played it too early, you ended up your opponent could overdraw you, but if you didn't play it early enough, you wouldn't draw enough cards and you would lose. So it was just, yeah, because the whole matchup was about burning your opponent's combo as well.
Right. Yeah.
But you also had to draw the cards to get to the combo. It was a great mirror. I loved it.
And then
And
every
we had
once in
dirty
a
that back then too.
yeah, we did. Yeah, and every once in a long while, someone would go full Northshire. I guess not in Rozaka's
Yeah.
Priest because you only had the one, but it's. I mean, I was playing Big Priest at the time just because I was a contrarian. So, and that was it was a real control deck back then though. Like it wasn't like it is in Wild now where it's just like broken. Like that was actually
Right.
like when Tars made the first version of that. Like that was it was a legitimate control deck. And I liked having redundancy to be able to like deal with. I don't even remember what I was trying to deal with back then. Probably like patches nonsense or whatever. I don't even remember. But it was something where I wanted 2 copies of things and then I couldn't play Raza. But I played a fair amount of that deck too. But
I got to appreciate it once it was in Wild, and I had a computer that could handle it.
yeah. Well, in Wild, then it was just Degenerate, and that was a completely different deck. Like once you had like even just having Resurrect in the deck in Wild was yeah.
Well, and the 4-drop that deals 4 damage to both players.
Oh
right?
yeah, Spawn of Shadows. God Almighty.
Every
yeah.
Inspire trigger.
Yeah.
So moving away from gameplay, do you have a favorite Hearthstone character?
I mean, AFK is my screensaver on my phone or whatever. My background. on my
Solid choice.
phone.
Is it the new Lo-Fi Girl one? Or
Very original one.
oh, okay.
It was just I liked the idea. I've always enjoyed the fact that Hearthstone doesn't take itself too seriously
Yeah.
most of the time, and AFK was kind of just the epitome of that. It's just like this is just a really stupid, goofy character. I understood the background from WoW. I don't play WoW, but I sort of Googled things and worked out why does this character exist? The stupid pun on the name, like just everything about the character I thought was fantastic. So yeah,
Yep.
Yeah.
yeah, definitely AFK. Not so much even the hero, just the character when it appeared in one of the adventures ages ago.
Oh
Dungeon
yeah, that
Room,
was like one of
Yeah,
one of the bosses you had to fight like forever.
If you don't
ago,
win
right?
fast enough, she just
Yeah.
plays a bunch of giants.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just that was like almost like an Easter egg because you just always won fast enough unless you knew that it was going to do this. I think it was like unlosable. But yeah, I just loved the whole idea of it being just ridiculous. And I think I liked it even more when it was just we made this whole character and put it in a dungeon run that you'll play twice ever, and that's it. It's gone.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Then they brought her back for PGs.
and then they brought it back. So I obviously wasn't the only one.
All right. To step entirely away from Hearthstone, do you have a favorite sandwich order or sandwich adjacent if you're not into sandwiches?
I struggle to order things where I have choices to make.
I believe
if I go
that.
to like a Subway and they say things like, "What sort of bread do you want?" I'm walking out of there. Just give me some food. I'm in here for some food. I don't want to have to decide things. But there is a standing, I say joke, but it's real. Comment that Raven and myself both will eat a ketchup sandwich if we're in a hurry because it's just go downstairs, grab some bread, put ketchup on the bread, eat the food, go back to doing whatever you're doing.
Is
And
that
for some
true?
reason, other people have this reaction to this comment.
You've put only a condiment and no.
Correct.
There's no there. That's just.
I'm not actually surprised by this at all, though. Like this does not even faze me, given some of the things you've said about food in the stream. Like that actually is fairly tame compared to what I was expecting to come out. So, yeah.
Look, we won't even get into the crimes against bagels, but you know.
But why would you do
Yeah,
things
let's
to
not do that
Bagel?
one.
Bagel is Raven's adorable dog.
Indeed. Let's go with that. Let's go with that.
All right. Well, I believe that takes us into the regular show then. So, would anyone like to kick us off for how our week was in Life and Ladder?
Well, I've been playing more Twist lately because I think I was trying to play Control Priest in standard, and I just like I don't know what broke in my brain. Like I cannot get it to work anymore, and I'm like very annoyed about it. So I've just been kind of avoiding standard out of shame. So I've been playing Twist. I started with a 10x multiplier this month because I started with 5x last month, but I just had like a 70% win rate in those 4 days, so they just spotted me the 10x, I guess. So I've been trying to get to Twist Legend. I'm at like Diamond 1 right now. I played a bunch of World 8's aggro druid to get to Diamond 5 because that was before the patch or before the bans, I suppose, because it was just beating up on a Demon Hunter. It was basically all Quest Demon Hunter, Quest Druid, and Hollow Mage, and it was beating up on
Mhm.
all of them.
Yep.
You know, like you just basically build a board that if the Hollow Mage couldn't go fast enough, you'd be able to have enough things on board to just be able to beat them through solid alibis, and then the taunts would get in the way of the other two. So that worked until the bans, and then all of a sudden it was not that anymore. So then I just switched to Quest Shaman, and Quest Shaman's been fine. Also, I actually queued into Sidisi on stream last night. Sidisi was playing like Big Beast Hunter as one would expect, and he
He's
had
out.
well, he's basically I didn't see the whole deck, but I imagine that the thesis statement of the deck is let's put as many mountain bears on board at once as we possibly can. There was because he had like Revive Pet and the dual class legendary that copies a beast, and I forget what else there was, and so he had like a full board of like 2/4s and mountain bears, and I just played a couple of novice zappers and perpetual flame, and the entire board went away. I did send him a message at some point during the game like this is the dumbest timeline, like this whole game is just dumb. But you know, that's I've been glugging a lot of people. It's been enjoyable. I've been you know, burning people's face off. I had a double bioluminescence on a glug board, so I did
no.
like 38 or something like that with one Serpent Shrine portal. It was delightful. I mean that deck's good. I'm just gonna kind of ride that until I get to Legend. I probably won't play more Twist after I get to Legend, but it's such a small number of people. Like Sidisi was at Diamond 9 and I was at Diamond 4 at the time when I queued into him. So like
Wow.
yeah, there's like not very many people there at all. And I did try. Rami got to rank 1 Legend with Control Priest. I did try it a little bit while he was hanging out my stream the other day, and it worked when you were queuing into Quest Druid and Quest DH, and I was queuing into all mages and just dying. And I said to him, like, how do I win this game? He said, you don't. You go next. Like, okay, well, if that's all I'm seeing, this is not going to work out for me very well. But because
I can never handle that answer. If someone tells me you
Yeah.
couldn't win this game, it infuriates me. It's like, why? Tell me. Of course I could win it. I'm me.
Yeah.
I can win any game.
Yeah, the problem is I know exactly why, because Priest isn't going to withstand all that damage from hand without any way to disrupt it. Like, without even, like, it would have to be some sort of, like, bananas discounts with, like, Harvester of Envy stealing a Drakefire Amulet to, like, take both of them out of their hand and play it and kill them with it. Which, I mean, I could probably pull off and then just retire, but I don't like it's not happening very often. So like because I was like trying to figure out like how the hell do I win this game knowing that all this damage is coming, and you just don't win. So
Well, it's something we've gotten used to with particularly how they've been doing neutrals more recently is they've been giving us disruption tools, right?
Yeah.
So, and in a format with no neutrals, there's both only very class-specific disruption tools, and already you're limited on ability to disrupt spells. That's why
Yeah.
spell DH at various points has been very frustrating because, unless they pull something out of the soul early, you can't do anything about it. Theatar is the only way to hit not minions. I've heard some people, this wouldn't help against mage, but some people going like control warrior because then you have call to the stand. And so at least for quest decks, people are because there's no neutral disruption, they're not being as careful about not creating the quest reward until they can play it in the same turn, and so call to the stand is able to counter that. But yeah, it's a very different format, and I always sort of knew that New Age was going to be like this, like higher powered, and I was not sure how long quests would make it. They've opted, instead of just flatline saying no quests, just doing some specific hits, and I definitely think those decks got weaker. We'll talk about the cards that got hit later, but the number of people that, like, when I did a stream earlier, I feel like some folks will pop in just to kind of be inflammatory about the thing, and I'm just like, yo, you do not know. You cannot have an opinion on Twist as a mode because we know one format.
Like,
Yeah.
it's 1 month.
It's not even.
have
It's like
people say they're
two.
not
It's
playing
not even that
standard.
long. It's been like 2
People
weeks.
say they're not playing standard because the new set is coming out soon. It's a month. It's the same amount of time as all of this Twist format. Like, it changes a lot. Get used to it. It's going to be fun sometimes for you and not for others. And that's how it is.
Yeah.
And so I think there's been a conflation of Twist with New Age as the same thing forever, which we know it is not. I think because of New Age being the first thing, there's been a probably rebellion of like, well, I'm never going to do Twist because I'm upset about the battle ready decks and not having the mode be accessible, which, okay. We'll see what the new formats are like. I do think there was a particular effort to make people's collections extending backwards more valuable, so it may consistently be using some older cards, and that will be more or less satisfying depending on who you are. But yeah, I've been enjoying Twist, and I did not have a high star multiplier because I barely play Wild, so I was just kind of playing whatever. I was doing stuff. I at least enjoyed some quest decks for a time, right? So I made like Quest Mage, got to play some Quest Paladin. You throw Oh My Yogg in there and it messes people up sometimes. And, just been messing around with various things. The Hunter that Blister guy posted looks fun. That's not like all in. You don't have Revive Pet, but it's still got Mountain Bears and Hounds and stuff. So that seems cool. And Standard, for me personally, it feels very well balanced. I'm just not interested in queuing into Control Priest ever. So I'm not into it. I probably would play Hunter in Standard too, because it just feels okay. I think another thing that's probably hurting Twist and Standard, I mean, one, we're right before a new expansion. So like, that is always the time when people cut down on their Hearthstone play and are just looking at spoilers for new cards and are waiting for the new set to really dive back in. And also Diablo 4. I've been seeing on my friends list a lot of people in Sanctuary, and I myself have been spending a lot of time in Sanctuary. Finished the campaign. I've been doing a bunch of Hell Tides, Nightmare Dungeons. I think I'm like level 62 or something with my Rogue. It's been a lot of fun. It's a much honestly better way for me to just sort of like switch off, listen to a podcast, listen to a book. I listen to the most delightful, like, short fantasy book called Legends and Lattes. That's about this orc Viv who quits her adventuring life to open up a coffee shop in this one city, and the conflicts are not really resolved through violence. Like, it's just all about the characters and relationships and figuring stuff out when bad things happen. And it was like the most chill, delightful book I've listened to in forever. The author does an excellent job with the audiobook, reading it and doing all the voices. And I was just like listening to that while I, slaughtered mass numbers of demons in Sanctuary. Frustrated about
Podcast.
how that game ends.
Yeah. And we got to co-op even this week. Like
we did.
Yeah. Yeah. It was the two, me and Maureen on the couch, and then Edel coming through and like running ahead of everything and blowing everything up ahead of us. And
rogues move fast. I mean, it's just
yeah. Well, Maureen was like, "How the hell does she move so fast?" Like we're still like, well, because she's like bringing up the rear with like Fatty McGolem behind her. And and then we're just trying to catch up, and you're already like halfway through. Like, oh yeah, okay. But yeah, it was fun. Yeah, we finished the campaign 2. We got into World Tier 3, and now we're trying to we're trying to figure out our builds. And I think I'm close on ice shards, ice spikes, whichever. They too many ice things.
There's like an infinite ice shards sorcerer thing. That's
I think ice shards. It's because there's ice shards and ice spikes or something like that, and they're anyway. But that's been working out. But yeah,
I got impatient and like tried the capstone dungeon, and I was doing my problem of treating it like Dark Souls and being like, it's fine if I die a lot, no problem. And I slogged through the dungeon, dying all over the place, and then I got to the boss of that level 70 capstone dungeon. I'm level 59, and I was like, oh no, I like can't beat this. like execution gets me maybe a little further, but I don't think I can ever be good enough like to just deal with the lack of 11 levels that I need to have here to beat it. So shout out to Fade to Black. Fade to Black carried me, and
yeah. I mean the trick to that is you go in with somebody else who can resurrect you. When you resurrect, you get full potions back. So
Fade to Black was just
killed
high powered enough, just like destroyed it. And I was like, okay, that melted. So now I have access to World Tier 4 when I want it, which is I just appreciate having done.
It's gonna take us a little while, I think, because we're still just like puttering through, and I don't think we're getting, like, we're still like level 53, and like it's gonna take us a while just because like we're not playing that much. We can only play for like an hour or two a day, and then
I've been doing.
We get tired. Yeah,
more than that.
Yeah.
It's been a great way, honestly, to just like, I'll see someone I haven't talked to in a long time, be like, hey, do you want to play? And I've been like, I reconnected with a friend from Philly that I haven't talked to in forever, who was part of my Hearthstone group there. And so it's been really nice for that. But at risk of becoming a Diablo podcast, Lorinda, take us back to Hearthstone.
A bonus episode
how has your week in Hearthstone been?
Yeah, sadly back to earth with a bump now. I've been jamming Standard. I actually share your opinion that Standard, it's balanced. The beast exists, and honestly, I know you don't agree with me on this. I don't think either of you agree with me on this, but mid-sized minions slamming into other mid-sized minions is something I just don't ever want to do. Oh, look, your 4/6 hit my 4/5. They both lived. Woo! Like, I just find that immensely boring. But
people wanted a board-based meta, right? Like that's what people asked for.
No,
so that's what you get.
Some people wanted a board-based meta. I am not one of those people. I hate board-based metas. They make me bored. They're called board for a reason. That's it. It's not a based board meta. It's just boring. But there is enough interest in there. I picked up Warrior again because that deck fascinates me. And we're back to jamming a deck a million times now. I'm playing on my Americas account where I was solo MMR. I went 75% to Legend in 120 games with 5 stars with big Demon Hunter.
Wow.
I just murdered people for a week. It was great. I loved it. I didn't learn a whole lot other than, wow, I'm actually better than I think at this game when I'm playing against people who really are quite new. But yeah, I picked up the Warrior deck when I got to Legend, and I've been enjoying learning the intricacies of that deck. The Mulligan in particular is very, very tough. Yeah. Because you can choose whether you're going to try and combo kill people with a massive Grom or tempo them kind of from turn one, and your mulligan never quite has all the things you need, except for very, very rarely. So you kind of have to pick a direction without being certain you're going to get that direction. The deck is very low. The synergies are very forced. There's sort of 6 cards in every synergy, and there's like 5 different synergies, and they don't interact well with each other. So you kind of have to play what you're dealt to some degree and be adaptable. So I've enjoyed it. Again, when I say a meta is boring for me, I want to be very, very clear. If there's not a meta that is boring you at some point in Hearthstone, then the devs are doing it wrong.
Uh-huh.
Because at some point you've got to have the thing you don't like so that other people can have the thing they do like. And there's very few people who like everything in card games. That's just how card games are. So this is my time to find the meta not my thing, but also I'm glad it exists.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean it's the kind of thing where people think balanced metas are fun metas, and balanced metas are sometimes some of the most frustrating metas because you sometimes just queue into something that murders you, or you lose to a coin flip and it feels bad, but it also means you have a variety of things to play against and you just have a puncher's chance in them, which is like the opposite of how Twist was, where like you could play any deck you want as long as it was Demon Hunter or Druid, right? So it's
Right.
like so that's kind of different. And it's like a matter of people. I don't think people hate, playing against the same things as much as they hate like losing against the same thing over and losing the same way over and over
Mhm.
again. And like even if they're different decks that are kind of doing the same thing, it still feels like they're losing the same way, and it kind of feels like it takes their agency away. But the flip side is you have a meta like Standard is right now, which is extremely well balanced, but then it makes it hard to climb because you can't just like pick an angle and attack it, right? Like that's what
Right.
I was able to do with the Aggro Druid and Twist. Like, okay, well, these decks are all doing the same thing. So I'm, well, I mean, World 8 figured it out. I just kind of, stood on the shoulders of giants. But you can kind of figure that out and like attack it and then hit everything in a way that you can climb really quickly. You can't do that in a balanced meta because there just isn't an angle to attack that way.
I mean, I
And-
think you go.
I think we often conflate balanced meta with a lot of different decks in different classes to play. That is what people think of when they think balanced meta. But you could also look at it and be like, well, there's 6 decks and they go about even with each other. Like that could be called a balanced meta, but now you've got people who play the other classes that are like, but I can't play my class.
Yeah.
And there's just different ideas of what it means to be balanced. I think there's also just a thing where if there's a deck that just wins completely off board, people will always say something's unbalanced there because they don't like the feeling of my opponent played solitaire and managed to survive long enough to kill me.
Sure.
There are some people who love that.
Yeah, I know you're right. I know you get feedback a lot more than I do on this. I've always enjoyed that sort of deck. I enjoy
Yeah.
playing those mirror matches in those sort of decks. I do think that the most balanced better ever was probably the most boring, kind of for everybody, which was pre-nerfed Corridor Creeper.
Oh.
Pre-nerf Corridor Creeper was the most balanced meta ever because everybody played every class, but they used the same 28 neutral cards in their
Right,
deck.
yeah.
That's pretty balanced.
Bone Bear, Corridor Creeper, 10 class cards, and yeah.
Yeah. Well, that was like
so
when
if you go,
Denathrius got
right.
introduced too. It was the same thing. It's like how what cards am I going to use to get myself to the point where I kill you with Denathrius? So
Yeah, it was the same thing. Yeah, and you get to turn 10, drop your thing, and off you go. So
Yeah.
balance doesn't necessarily mean fun. And I think for me at the moment, it's not particularly fun. I do think there's a bit more variety than I'm making out. Like there is Control
Yeah.
Priest. The Warrior deck is kind of funky. The Demon Hunter decks are weird board-based contraptions. Druid, hey, goodbye, Druid. We hated you. Goodbye. At lower ranks, Paladin is still, very playable and enjoyable. I think if you're a lower ranked player, I've never enjoyed it personally, but I ran into quite a few on my climb. People enjoy hitting people with on curve big things. So I think it's probably balanced and reasonably diverse. But I also think we do need a new set quite
Yeah.
soon. I think.
I mean, it's the last throes of a 4-set meta. This is just the natural progression of things.
Yep.
So, and we're getting it. It seems like, at least what we've seen in the new set's going to be pretty cool. And I guess that probably cues us into, given that we've been talking for almost an hour, that we should probably get into the news and talk about those things that are coming.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
All right, so we had patch 26.6.2 with balance changes, as we were alluding to, and and as far as standard is concerned, there was one, and Whomper got whomped, and this was buffed in one of the earlier patches, and then it was brought down to 5 mana. So this nerf is reverting it to 6 mana. Again, it's if you were lucky enough not to have seen it, Death Blossom Whomper was the druid minion, 6 mana, 6/5 with a battle cry, draw Death Rattle minion, gain its Death Rattle. So now it is 6 mana, and I don't know about either of you. I have not seen that deck since Thursday when these balance changes came out, and good riddance.
It's gone. It has gone. Thank goodness.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, people look at a 1 mana change like, well, it can't really make that much of a difference. No, it can. It can, and it does. And I mean, that was the only deck that really felt bad in this meta, I think, just because it was just like a non-game when they got to do the thing. I mean, it was kind of like Barnes, where 30% of the time it works every time, and the rest of it, if the player's skilled enough to navigate around not getting the right cards in the right order, then they could still win, but it just felt awful no matter what. So
probably something like Allura, right? Where you needed Allura and an activator. You needed, Whomper and the location. But if you had those things, it was pretty hard to lose, like even into something aggressive.
And the survivability, like even if they missed, like even if you wipe out the first wave of their crazy combo stuff, you're like, okay, I've done it. They just did something even more ridiculous the next turn. There wasn't any satisfaction for, okay, you've done your thing. I've managed to construct a way to clear your thing that you've done on turn 4 or 5. I now deserve to win this game. And then they just do another ridiculous thing. It just had too much going on.
Yeah. Yep. So good riddance to that. And I mean, the meta at least it doesn't feel like you're getting blown out that often. At least if you're getting blown out, it's by something that was earned, not necessarily by something that was just like drawn, which is better. So we also had 3 cards that were banned from Twist. So they're not going to be nerfing cards for Twist because it's a time limited format, so it doesn't make sense to change the cards across the board just because they're broken in Twist. So they're just removing them from the format. So the dev comment here was part of the Twist beta was exploring our own design objections when it comes to the mode. The whole premise of the mode is that there are quickly updating formats already built into it, so balance changes might not be as necessary to keep things fresh. However, we are still able to make card bans when we think they make the format better. Here we're taking a lighter approach to the big 3 outliers in the current format. We'll see how these changes impact players and might take further or different actions in the future, including next time we bring back the New Age format. So basically what they're saying is, don't expect that they're always going to step in and twist, but this time it warranted it. So the cards that were banned were Glide, Crypt Keeper, and Refreshing Springwater. Some people were calling for just ban the quests, which would, that certainly would solve the problem. But that said,
well, except Hollow Mage, but
yeah, I mean, Hollow Mage doesn't have the quest is Drakefire Amulet. That's the quest in Hollow Mage, but instead of banning the cards that are enabling it, they just ban the key enablers. Glide for all the additional card draw, and sometimes in multiple times a turn in Quest Demon Hunter. Crypt Keeper for survivability in Quest Druid, and then Refreshing Springwater to be able to draw into more of the discounted cards to be able to get to a discounted Drakefire Amulet with the fuel to be able to do anything with it. And I mean, to their credit, I've been playing a lot of games at, relatively high MMR and Twist, and I have not seen any of these decks since the bans. People were kind of, I did hear a lot of consternation, like, well, why, just ban the quest? Why ban these cards, but these were kind of load-bearing cards in each one of those decks, and did the job. So, good work to the balance team on picking out whatever the key enablers were, and removing those while still allowing people at lower MMR to play versions of these decks if they wanted to that aren't broken.
Right.
So there's also a lot of Battlegrounds updates that I'm gonna confess I didn't really understand the last Battlegrounds patch, and I super don't understand this one. I have heard that Battlegrounds does seem better since these adjustments, but they made a number of changes to hero powers, and it seems like they walked some of those back. Certainly, Cariel was reworked to give +2 attack for the rest of the game, and then they walked that back to +1 attack or +1 health, depending on which stance you were in. Mukla is walked back from giving a 50% chance to get a big banana, as opposed to it's now a 33% chance of giving a big banana. Arana, it looks like, was buffed to it was after 6 team friendly minions attack, the first minion you buy every turn is free. Now it's after 4 team friendly minions attack, the first minion you buy every turn is free. The Curator's Amalgam is now a 2/2 with Venomous, so apparently the Venomous was not good enough. So that's more. There's some armor changes and some adjustments to the minions. I'm looking for I'm not really sure what the outliers are here, to be honest. But I know that I heard that mechs were broken, and hopefully this addresses it. But
what
I
I
don't know
like
if
about
either-
how they do Battlegrounds patches is you can pick up Battlegrounds anytime you want, and everything does the same thing it did before. It might not do it as well, or it might
Yeah.
do it better, but it does what you expect it to do, give or take. If you've missed it for a year, you go back and, Millhouse still gets you more cards, and so on and so on. You still know what you're running into, so you can put the game down and pick it up and let the balance team just do their thing and ignore them in the corner.
Yeah. Though I guess the last patch removed things like Leapfrogger, which was, a pretty big deal. So, I haven't really tried to play Battlegrounds because I just don't even know what I would do, right? Like, I already feel lost in Battlegrounds as it is. And now it's like they changed so much I don't even know what I'm doing. But, it's anyway, let us know if you are finding the this is usually when I look to see if Jake Carrick's in chat to see who will tell us in explicit detail what's going on in Battlegrounds, but he's not there, so we'll just move on. There were some duels adjustments as well. I don't like some changes to some signature treasures and some changes to some passive treasures. We're not going to spend. We're already going long as it is, so I'm not going to go into those in detail. But go check the patch notes if you're playing duels. Make sure you see those in case they change anything that you're looking for. Just card pool updates for duels which are relevant. Lightning Bloom and Kane have both been banned from deck building in all the pools, and Rattlegore is temporarily banned from deck building and card pools until Diablo leaves the hero pool. So, which gives me an excuse to play this.
Of course.
Yes. And then bug fixes. The Druid Battle Ready deck, which we mentioned last week, that had Jerry Rig but no Choose One cards, now has Umbral Owl instead of Jerry Rig Carpenter. So I would assume that if you bought the Battle Ready deck already, you will be granted either the card or dust, or somehow they will make it up to you for that, but it doesn't say how. There was a bug where certain hero powers in Battlegrounds didn't show their cost in the hero select screen. That's been fixed, and they fixed the text on Tavish's aim right hero power option, but there's no functional change. So it's a couple of minor tweaks there, nothing major. You would expect those are pretty much just, bug fixes affecting gameplay that you'd be having in a patch like that. So we also got word that in the new patch, when Titans releases, there will be a related cards pop-up that will be when you hover over a card in the collection manager. So this is a tweet from Hat. And it's going to be kind of like when you're looking at, it almost looks like a bucket from Duels, where it's got a list of related cards, and then it'll show all of the different abilities. We're looking at Sargeras, so he's got the portal that gets summoned as well, the Twisting Nether, and then any of the tokens that come out of it. And if there are any other cards that get summoned out of it, it'll show those all to use there, so you'll be able to see that in the collection manager, which is a really great quality of life feature to just be able to see everything that goes along with a card, especially when you're talking about like the Titans that are not, when you just look at the front of the card, it is not clear what is going on until you dig into it. So
Yeah. This has been something that I think for a long time has always just felt like,
Yeah.
I can't tell what is their criteria for putting reminder cards of like things that go along with, because like sometimes you would look in the collection and see like the token or whatever come up that it's going to have, and then other times it's just like, well, there's too many cards, so we don't have it there. I think with the quest especially, I was like, can I see the other two phases? Can I like, please?
no,
We know they're there.
you'll see it when you play the card. You'll be fine.
Just spend your 1600 dust and shut up.
I just want this in game when I play something that relies on things that have died to tell me what's died, so that I know what's going to happen when I play the card. But
Can we talk about having a scroll bar on the left-hand side?
I was giving you the opening. I would love that too. Like, any day now, the scroll bar on the activity log in game would be fantastic too. So we also have, now that all the Titans have been revealed, there is the Choose Your Titan event that is going on. So once a week, and the first round has already started. It will be running through July 10th, and there's a second round running through the 17th, and then a third round running through the 24th. There's a Choose Your Titan event page. You go and you vote for one of the Titans, and whoever gets the most votes will progress to the next week, and you will get a pack for voting. So that being said, there is some scuttlebutt around the internet that a lot of people are focusing on Sargeras. If you are trying to min-max your packs, that might be a direction you want to go if you're not particularly tied to anything. Otherwise, just vote with your heart and let the chips fall where they lie.
It's funny because there's a few things at play, right? So obviously there's the people making noise about this, like, hey, everyone get together. Like, if we all vote the same thing, we'll get the extra packs, right? But I wonder what the balance is between like people that are tuned in enough to have heard or seen all that stuff versus people who, like, I don't know, maybe see this thing happening by other means and just like immediately do it without like going to other sources, and so just like vote their conscience.
Yeah.
Probably if you're tuned in enough to participate in this thing, you're also tuned in enough to like see that Sargeras is where people are pointing. But I some deep part of me like that has wants just Schadenfreude or something is just like, oh, I want people to just be like really into collectively some other Titan just because they're actually a good character, and like, and for this to fail, it would be hilarious. But
I agree. With HGG, so with this, I agree. I think it will succeed. I don't think that people will have heard about this unless they've heard about the other stuff.
Yeah.
With HGG, back when things were, I felt, maybe promoted better, we did get surprise results quite often in like all the clued in players were like, these four are going to be in the team. It's obvious. And every time somebody you'd expect would just miss out because it turns out that people voting en masse who just read I'm a potato on somebody's bio or something. Yeah. And it was funny. Who was it? It was the UK version of Toast, basically just sat in a bath of toast for his picture and won on the back of it, even though he was probably our fifth or sixth best player at the time. Like, those sort of things can be swung around, but I do think this time around that people won't know about this unless they're on Reddit or if they're listening to podcasts or stuff.
Unless they add a pop-up in the game, right? If they add a pop-up in game, then everything changes, right? Because like
Yes.
we know that there are millions and millions of players, and it's like the number of people who are clued in who are listening to a podcast like this are like a fraction of a percent of like the overall player base. If they were to put a pop-up, even in BattleNet, but certainly in game, that completely changes the math, and then it's a free for all. Then it doesn't matter like what influencers on Twitter are trying to get people to vote. It's just going to be up to people going to a webpage and picking whichever one's art they like or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So that is, but do go and vote, because I mean, free packs are free packs. So go make sure to
Get free
vote
packs.
either way.
Yeah, you get one no matter what. So
Yeah.
do the thing.
So packs are packs. Yeah, and then we can. That's all for news, but we actually have a fair amount of tournament news, and we have Lorinda here who has some expertise as well. So I think let's go talk about tournaments.
Let's do that.
It's the grand tournament.
So we have our qualified players for both Standard and BGs. In Standard, we have America's Yukio from Canada, Dreadeye from the US, Gamer RPG also from the US, and Banterface from the US. Europe, we have Pocket Train, UK, Rekfem from Croatia, Meaty from the UK, and Renmen from Russia. So far, I recognize all these names. Cool. From APAC, we have Gyu from Korea, Tansoku from Japan, Hemlock from Korea, and Nagon from Japan. Not positive on the last one. And then the wild cards are Gabby from France, Casey from Germany, Roulian from France, and Insane from the Ukraine. So pretty good spread of players there. Only a few that I don't really know. Any that stick out for you, Lorinda?
Gabby's back. Gabby is
Yay!
Oh,
gotta be Gabby. This is getting interesting now. So this is the second of 3 seasons, and these players are not just gathering points to qualify for this tournament, they're gathering points to qualify for the World Championship. A lot of these players are streaming it, and a lot of them are starting to slowly but surely go mad. Because they're playing thousands of games of high levels Hearthstone under enormous pressure every month. And I don't know, Gabby just missed the first 3 months, just didn't bother. Turned up for this one and did it, and he's fresh, and a lot of the others are tired. I don't know if that's going to be a big deal on a 1-day event or 2-day event that people can rest for in advance and stuff, but the names you see there repeatedly are the names who have spent 6 months now playing Hearthstone. And again, if you watch some of them, if you watch not so much Banterface because he's like hard to break, but watch Pocket Train or you watch Meaty, Rekvam streaming less, the players are struggling with this format. It is a lot. And it's going to be very interesting to see. There's 5 more months left. Some of these people don't look like they're going to make it through 5 more months playing Hearthstone. They're tired. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. But Gabby, I think a lot of those people will be praying that Gabby gets through as is because they don't want to have to keep competing against him, I don't think.
Yeah. I mean, there's 10 repeat players here who were in our previous event. I think that's what these asterisks are for.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of repeat people, which, cool to see the consistency. But as you say, they are like really killing themselves here. I mean, I remember when, Frozen qualified for Worlds and it was just like done. Like there was nothing until Worlds. Frozen just didn't compete. I think it was Frozen, and it was just like.
That's Levick this year, right? He's not bothered repeating. He's just putting his feet up for 9 months.
Yeah, because the grind is insane.
Yeah. I mean, and he can play like a couple of games a day or whatever just to keep like himself like tuned in and not atrophy. But like also the fact that he gets to be a normal human with like a normal sleep schedule for the next 9 months while everyone else is like busting their heads at playing Control Priest mirrors at High Legend. Like I that's just like that, it's just descending into the depths of hell, especially like this particular.
That's you saying that.
Well, this particular incarnation of the Control Priest mirror where you play, where if both players know what they're doing, and I would expect at that level they do, that you play for 45 minutes to an hour to a tie. Like, it seems just completely maddening. So I mean, that's like the reward for like I think you were saying it on a few times on the last stream. Like the reward for the money winning this tournament is less than just not having to do this again, right? Like not having to grind for the next 3 months.
Yeah, that's the point with those priest mirrors where it's like you know that someone else plays that deck on ladder, and you're like, are you queuing? Okay, you go first, right? Like, because you just don't like it's bad for both of you, right?
Yeah.
Well, then over in Battlegrounds, which admittedly I don't know quite so much about, we have America's Waterloo in the US, Dog, well, Dog at least I know, and Woody Bill also. Well, all US here. Waterloo, Dog, Woody Bill, and Lee. And then from Europe, we have Zorg from Germany, Sevel from Poland, XQN from Belarus, and Max 7K from Russia. Then APAC, we have Alutemu from Japan, Arekusu from Japan, Yanase from Japan, and Shirausa from Japan. Wow. Full Japan APAC. That is...
Well, it was full Japan APAC and wild cards last time around. So this is
this
is like a
crazy.
step back for Japan now. Yeah.
Japan really going in on the BGs. Wild cards, we have Tomb from Finland, Jeef from US, Awe Dragon from Canada, and Citro from Germany. Yeah, I mean, I'm excited to see Alutemu play, and I guess Alutemu's playing BGs now, so that's you can only do one of these, right?
It's just another stacked lineup. It's the same system as it is in standard, so it's always going to be a stacked lineup. Interesting to see Dog in there. I don't think Dog's really gone for the very top level, not because he can't, but because he doesn't. Like Dog's just Dog. If he turns up for something, he'll probably do quite well. Obviously, Zorg is now just an absolute mainstay near the top. But the whole lineup here is, as the system would be, really stacked. Great to see Seville up there. I think Seville's one of these players that is kind of top 20, not top 16 a lot of the time, or whatever the equivalent is. We haven't seen enough of him, but he's regularly out there streaming every day. So glad that he's made it to one of these. And yeah, it would just be another stacked event. I sound like I'm advertising the event, but I wouldn't do what I did if I didn't like it. So of course I'm going to say it's good.
I mean, look, someone's got to advertise the event.
Also that.
That's why we do the podcast, because you can't rely on the Twitter account from HS Esports. So somebody's got.
We're the only podcast that, well, maybe not the only. We're one of few podcasts that cover esports. So yeah, Jeef of the Jeef Curve fame, I believe, making it into the wild cards there is pretty cool. And WTY or Woody Bill, I feel like is a much older Hearthstone name. To have him kind of showing up again, I don't know. It's fun for me, especially because I know he's a good friend of Ray C, who's a good friend of mine, and they're very close. Kind of get the what's going on in China kind of thing, and so I'm excited to see him play. Should be great. Well, that brings us to the one other tournament that's going to be coming up soon, which is the Supergirl Gamer Pro signups. So for any women or non-binary folks who are interested, registration is open. It's going to be open qualifiers July 29th and 30th, so just that weekend, and then finals August 5th. They've really shaved down the sort of qualifier season from what it was for a while. It was like this multi-week thing, which was kind of cool, but also a lot to commit to. So just one weekend of qualifiers, then the finals August 5th, $2,500 prize pool. Cannot recommend enough if it's, your first event, if you're a woman, non-binary person looking to get into competing. It's just a much more accepting environment. I can't really put it any other way. You don't have to worry about being harassed or anything. I don't know. Very occasionally, we've had to check people to make sure they were what they said. Sometimes just because someone had no idea that it was, women and non-binary only tournament, and so they're like, "Oh, sorry," but it's always gone pretty smoothly. it'll obviously be a little bit different this time because Bemi was the one who was sort of running production end before. But yeah, always look forward to these. I may have to sit this one out, both in terms of casting or playing, because my wife is due in August, and I may have a baby at this point, and taking a weekend to play in a tournament just doesn't really seem like it's in the cards. So, but I would love to watch other people that I know compete and do well and everything. So,
But
I'm glad
think of
you-
how epic. But think of how epic it would be, Adel, if you won that tournament while changing a diaper, right? Like, with literally one-handed, right?
well, I don't think my wife would be too thrilled about that.
Probably not. Yes.
We're supposed to do like no screens for the first year, right?
Oh.
So you'd have to like keep them facing away. I mean, look, if she sleeps the whole time, whatever. But
It's really good to hear a woman speak about those sort of tournaments in such a positive light. I was lucky enough to cast one of the WESG events where they had the open and the women's at the same place. And honestly, women just sign up for events. Non-binary people sign up for these events. Don't be scared of not winning, which is something I've seen women be scared of before. It's like men don't care about not winning. They just turn up and not win and then walk out and go, "Look at me, I didn't win." Like just turn up and play and meet people and have fun. But the WSG thing, like I say, it was open category and women's category in the same building. And on day one of the tournament, it was a 3-day event. All the men are just in the middle of the building. The women sort of meeting each other off to the sides and really not mingling. And by the end, it was just one big party and everyone was really comfortable. But having the women in their own event, and again, they were allowed to enter the open if they wanted. It wasn't split, so you had to play in the women's event. It just gave that extra bit of confidence, I felt, to the women who were there that, hey, I do belong here in this event. I am supposed to be here. I am allowed to play these games as well. And the men seeing that were a lot more, I mean, maybe you just had a good bunch of men there, but I felt that the men were a lot more accepting than normal as well, because they realized that the women belong. They finally realized, seeing it happen, you could see it happening in front of your eyes, that the women were being left out until they weren't. And it was just great to see that everyone mingled by the end. I can't get it across enough just how amazing how much that tournament impacted my perception of everything.
Yeah, and I would say if you're someone who is thinking about it, like there are a lot of people in the Discord who will be more than happy to help you with lineups or any prep or whatever, myself included. Like I think that if you're at all on the fence and you're like inclined to want to compete, this is a great event to do it, and there are a lot of people in the Discord certainly who will be more than happy to help you get prepped and figure out lineups and and whatever you need in order to feel prepared for that event at the end of the month.
Cool.
Yep.
Well, I believe that is all we have for tournaments at this time, so we should get into talking about the cards, because Titans are pretty exciting.
They are, and we have a lot of them and nothing other than Titans. So let's go talk about those.
So we have basically the rest of the Titans revealed. I think previously we got 3 of them, 2 of them.
2 of them. We had 2 of them, so we have 9. The other 9 are what they revealed. Right. Like they did like 2 a day over this past week. Mostly by the Play Hearthstone account. I think there was 1 that was revealed by a streamer. But the rest of them were all just like these little videos on the Play Hearthstone account. And the one, and of course the one that was revealed by a streamer was the one that had the most questions, because that's always the way that it goes. But yeah, and it's interesting to see, like, obviously we don't know what the rest of the set looks like, but like kind of get a sense of like what the speed of this format's going to look like based on the build arounds that these clearly are. It'll be interesting to see how the rest of the format shakes out, but
yeah, and each of these, have their abilities are sort of different styles, but I like that sort of across the board. I think they are relatively flexible, right? Where it's like there should be something that you're interested in doing the turn that you play them.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's like an optimal order that's kind of you can kind of infer from it, but also I think a lot of the skill of it is going to be figure out when you break that optimal order and when you play it with an ability that's not like the best in slot for the turn that you play it for lack of a better term.
Right. Well, let's not keep people in suspense. I don't know if this was reveal based or just because it's you, but the first one on our list is the priest titan.
This is the order. This is the order in which they were revealed.
Oh, okay.
So I'm not showing any bias, but I will be happy to start if you would like me to with the priest one because that's what I do. But
yeah,
Amonthul is the priest titan. He is a 7 mana, 3/10. After this uses an ability, discover any legendary minion. I'm assuming that means from any class. We haven't seen any legendary.
Think so.
But it's because like we've seen discover a legendary from any class. We've seen discover a legendary. This saying discover any legendary implies to me that it's any class plus neutrals.
Mm-hmm.
And so Amonthul's abilities are choose a non-Titan minion, summon a copy of it with +2/+2. Summon a random 6-cost minion, give it taunt and lifesteal. And choose 2 enemy minions and remove them from the game. So that is as what is colloquially known as a poof effect. That it doesn't trigger death rattles. They don't get resurrected. They are gone. It is though they were never played. So I mean, that seems like generally you're going to be playing it as a removal, but like also the 6 costs are fine. But also he's got 10 attacks, so or 10 health rather. So he's probably gonna live to be able to summon the 6 drop. And then the minion you probably want to copy is probably the one with taunt and lifesteal. So, I mean, obviously there are gonna be differences there, but the intention is clearly to get another taunt lifesteal on the board to continue to protect both your face and Amonthul. So it seems like it's going to be the kind of thing that people are going to want to hard remove. But if you can't hard remove it, it's going to be very difficult because the minions you would have used to remove it are gone. And then there's a taunt in the way, and then there's 2 taunts in the way.
I do really like that Shape the Stars specifies a non-Titan minion so that you cannot, because you can target your opponent's stuff. So the fact that you cannot summon a copy of an opposing Titan with +2/+2 and then immediately use that Titan ability. Glad they nipped that one in the bud, because we're going to see enough cover artists this format already. Let me tell you, that card stonks going up. Like, just doing that to get a Titan ability is going to be pretty nutty. So I expect, at least in slower decks, to see a lot of cover artists.
I'm just staring. I'm just staring at
I guess I can ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how annoyed are you, given that this is a priest minion?
I'm gonna be honest. I have looked at the Titans before the podcast night, and you were going to be talking about them. But I do reveal. I tend not to look at reveal season until all the cards are out because I get so many false impressions of the meta if I do that. So I've looked at Titans as a whole. I've looked through them all for 20 minutes earlier today. But I haven't really formed any opinions. I think maybe we're overrating them slightly. They can't attack. It's not a real 3/10. It's kind of a stubbornly stuck 3/10 that you have to work at to get your 3/10. And the same with all the others, of course. I think that we're instinctively forgetting they can't attack. They're still obviously good, and I agree with the ordering thing as well. You obviously have to learn how to play them, how not to play them. But I don't know. I think they're going to be good. I think we're going to see them all played because that's how new cards always work. But I think that what we do around them is going to be more important than what we do with them.
Yeah, I think the way we described them last week's, which I think was the more we see of them, the more appropriate it seems, is they're kind of like Hearthstone's versions of Planeswalkers from Magic, right? Where like, yeah, they're not attacking, but also they're going to demand removal, because if they're allowed to snowball, then they get out of control in a hurry, and then bad things happen.
So it depends what removal they give us, right? Do we get any removal?
Right.
No removal
Well,
for
and-
you.
You know, Amanthul really kind of scares me in terms of Control Priest, because it is one of the most just like super flexible here, where sometimes you can just play it and get that 2-for-1. And even if it gets removed, you got to remove 2 things, not having to deal with death rattles, and you get to discover a legendary. Like, just the fact that so many of these, you know, you do a thing at either whenever you use an ability or as a battle cry, right? Like, no matter what, you're getting that benefit and whatever the first ability is. I think we can basically sort of rate them on, if you only get one of these, how good is it going to be?
Yes.
And so in that sense, the flexibility comes from like, well, how many situations are these really good? And I think, you know, Amanthul, if you are removing 2 things and getting a legendary minion and something that has to be removed, like, that's insane. If you're making a 6/6 taunt and getting a legendary or minion and having a thing that has to be removed, that's pretty good. Probably the one you do the least for the first one is the copy, but I'm sure there will still be scenarios where getting a copy is all right. Again,
Blackwater
very
Behemoth.
glad it's if you have stuck a Blackwater Behemoth, I think you're doing okay.
Well, you know, you stick the Amanthor and you play the Behemoth the next turn, right?
Yeah. You
Yeah.
can do that. Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
you'll
I
have
was
2
just about to say, they
behemoths.
wouldn't
Yeah.
give us an 8 drop that's completely ridiculous to play alongside this, would they? Oh, yeah, we've already got it, except it only costs 7 now for some reason that no one understands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, you look at like the Countess, right? And like, yeah, those cost 0, so it's a little bit different, but like, you know, you sometimes just get legendaries that you probably shouldn't have normally that just manage to, especially because it's a discover. And this is also the class with Power Word Synchronized, Power Chord Synchronized, by the way.
Yeah, that's what scares me the
like,
most.
turn 9, you can play this, remove 2 minions, get 2 with even more stats, and then have another one for the next turn, right? So, or after that gets removed. So it's gonna be something that people are going to groan at a lot, I think.
I liked the bit where we talked about Diablo, actually. Can we go back to that? Because
It does sound like a Helltide, doesn't it? Yeah.
Oh, did they not say the first world boss in Diablo 4 is Amanthul? It's actually
right. I actually didn't know that. But
that's gonna be the in the next season. That's gonna be the big enemy. No,
you will feel while playing against this, you're trapped in a capstone dungeon for sure. Yes.
Yeah. No, I think something that I don't know if it'll pan out this way, but I'm sort of hopeful of is like, since this is such a high power, high value card, maybe, just maybe, then the priest mirrors will be a little bit more about like, discovering some legendary off Amanthul, or who can chain more Amanthuls, right? And there's actually an end because people like get win conditions off this rather than just like who can drown more things. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like the priest Galakron.
Maybe that's too optimistic. Yeah,
like that was kind of, I mean, not that the Galakron priest mirrors weren't silly either, but like that was the goal, was to kind of generate the most like impactful priest minions, and that was like the way that it would close out games. So yeah, it might be like anything that can allow priests to, like, I don't think people realize how good the priest quest was, just in terms of allowing those games to end. And
I realize.
and now that we don't have that, like, there is no, like, the fatigue is the win condition, and when you get 2 of them together, it's just awful. So yeah, allowing like even just like a Grom or something, right, just to be able to get some damage in or something in those mirrors would be a good way to go. Or like, discover Denathrius, just let it sit in your hand for a while, right? Maybe that's enough. Or get an Astalor, who knows, right? Like an extra Astalor might make the difference. It's gonna be
one thing that does scare me though is like, you can basically run Svalna and this and everything else is removal, and you have enough value to beat like any other control deck. It's just it's already there. We'll see.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how much from hand damage we get, but because that's generally the
Right.
way that you end that, right?
It's very possible. The Titans do not make me think that we're getting a lot of from hand damage, but that could change very quickly. But let's move on to the damage-based class, which is Hunter, with Agrimar the Avenger. So Agrimar the Avenger is a 6-mana 3/7 Titan, of course. Battle Cry, equip a 3/3 Teishalach, which is a weapon. And the abilities here are maintain order, give your weapon after your hero attacks, draw a card. Commanding Presence, give your weapon after your hero attacks, summon a 3/3 Enforcer with Taunt. And Swift Slash, give your weapon +2 attack and your hero is immune while attacking. So this one, I think a lot of times is going to be 15 damage.
Yeah. I mean, it's a matter of. I mean, we might see more Vipers if this becomes popular.
Yeah.
I mean, that's always
I mean,
the
they're
that's always the
already-
risk, but
They're already coming up in play, the Vipers, because of all the festivals, weapons, etc.
I mean, this is Weapon Rogue, just Hunter. This is like when the Hunter got the quest that made it into Raza Priest. Now they're getting the Titan that turns them into Weapon Rogue.
So you run Talon, and then this is your most expensive minion, and then you run the 1-drops that give you 1 durability on your weapon.
Yeah. I mean, those are neutrals,
Just-
right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you got Shock Spitter still.
I suppose, yeah.
I don't know. I'm not
It's-
Sidisi, so I don't know how to,
it's
how
a
you make
little-
Hunter do things, but
Turn 6, I feel like, is a little late to get your weapon online for a Shock Spitter deck. But
well, I mean, it's
feel
like the third or fourth weapon, right? It's not the first one. You have other things too.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing happens before turn 5 in Hearthstone anymore, so turn 6 is probably fine.
Yeah, I guess.
You're playing selective breeders or whatever. It's fine. It's not a. I mean, you have your wild seeds anyway, right? So you're just gonna want to make. I mean, that's kind of the weird thing is you're gonna have to make sure like your wild seeds don't overwrite this weapon, or maybe you're not. Like, does this push you away from wild seeds to remove the? Because like that's gonna be a trolled and clip day one. Is somebody stacking this with all the things, and then their wild seed wakes up and blows it away, and then they're just sad.
Yeah.
But
yeah, bit of anti-synergy there.
yeah.
This is one of those.
It says give your weapon, not give your whatever that word starting with T is. So that at least if you have the accident, which they've obviously had in playtesting, you still buff something somehow. So it's only half a disaster.
Yeah, I guess you could just overwrite this
interesting.
with like a Hope of Quel'Thalas, right? And you don't have to. I guess you don't have to use the abilities the turn you play them. I mean, you need to
Yeah,
keep them
exactly.
alive. Right?
Yeah, it's optimistic, but yeah.
It's
Or you could just do the taunt first, so you try and keep it alive.
Yeah.
But then if they break your weapon, then you equip something else. And I mean, all of these are like pretty nuts if they happen more than once, right? Like, I don't know if this makes it into, say, like the Beast Hunter that we've got. It is a lot of value, so it does kind of fit. But at the same time, if you've already got Hounds and Hope of Quel'Thalas, like that deck can only take so many heavy things.
Yeah.
We'll sort of see, but like getting a 3/3 taunt every turn as you're swinging for three turns is a lot of pressure. Having a 5 attack weapon to just hit them for 5 for 3 turns is a lot of pressure, and getting extra cards as you do 3 damage each turn can be a lot when Hunter does not traditionally have terribly much card draw. So it's like it's one of the ones where I think it's going to be most impactful which one you pick first, because if we assume it gets removed and you're not getting another one, like you'll have to sort of have the foresight of like what is going to help me honestly get the most damage? Is it going to be just getting a, 15 damage out of your weapon swings, or is it going to be making 3/3s so that they can hit a few times, or
Or making
or
3/3
getting
so it doesn't
cards?
die, right? So like, I
Yeah,
mean, the protect them being taunts like protects the body too. So it gives you the time to be able to do the other things.
yeah.
I fear for some of these mirrors.
Mm,
They may just come down to who draws their legendary good card first. I'm not sure. That's a long way to go. There's a whole set to be revealed, but it does have that. Was it when hero cards first came out? We sort of had that meta where draw
yeah,
your Jaina or lose. Like first one to draw their Jaina wins. That sort of stuff. Little
yeah.
bit scared of this, but there's so much more card draw now that maybe it's not quite as important as it was back then.
Yeah, I mean, I could see us getting into like keep your carrier hero in the mulligan type of scenarios with some of these titans.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Well, especially with ones like this where it's 6 mana, so it's like just at that cusp where even if you're sort of something more aggressive, you could get away with like full mulliganing everything else but keeping the 6 cost card. Um, honestly, when I know I'm against something slower, I'll keep Hope of Quel'Thalas in those matchups, right, already. And that's just, a +2 buff to everything. So I would definitely keep something like this. It's gonna be messy, particularly in the cases where, someone's Titan kills the other person's Titan because it just has the ability to do that.
yeah. Remove it from the game. Sounds good. I like that. 7 mana right after the 6 mana turn, where the 6 mana titans are coming out. I'm for that. Yeah.
Well, next on the list here, we have Paladin, which is a little more defense focused, as the priest one was.
This one actually bothers me. This was one of the two that caught my eye. I think this might be. I don't know what the consensus opinion is. I suspect this is low on the consensus opinion. I just think this might be absolutely ridiculous.
Why don't you go ahead and tell us about it then?
You can't kill it. It sits there for 3 turns and does its thing. You cannot kill it. Like, okay, it has taunt for that reason, but your minions can't take more than 2 damage at a time. So
Including
either your opponent has to have the board against Paladin, or they need to have spells in a meta where no one's printed a spell for 3 expansions now. Like, how do you kill this thing? It just sits there doing its thing for 4 turns.
Of note, it is a 7 mana 1/8. So it doesn't have a lot of power to defend itself, but yes, as you say, it makes it so all your minions can't take more than 2 damage at a time. So damage-based removal, not really cutting it, and opposing minions, not really cutting it.
And it's in the hand buff class. So
it is
might
in
be
the hand buff class.
It
That's
might
true.
be bigger than 1/8 by the time it comes out on the board.
That's true. But its abilities here, we have Reinforced, draw 2 minions, set their attack, health, and cost to 2. That's gonna be interesting. I'm not sure where you're gonna want that, but it's the kind of effect where it's just like, well, targeted draw usually finds a way. And
us and just get rid of it, and then when it comes back, it probably resets and has 3 more Titan abilities.
Yeah, maybe.
Let's
I
do
mean,
that.
just like
That was not fun.
there's enough battle cry things or whatever, or like if you get a 2/2 Leviathan, but it still summons the 4/2, right? That wouldn't be so bad. The Countess, you don't mind playing as a 2 mana 2/2, and then you can play all the invitations in the same turn.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about the kinds of cards that Paladin runs, right? Like the little ones are getting buffed by this, and the big ones are coming out like way earlier than you would normally want them to. Like the Countess Leviathan Purator is fine, right? So it's only really like the ones that are like the 3, 4, 5 mana range. Like you wouldn't want like your Liadrin to get drawn from this. That's probably like the one bad hit. But like anything else, like all the 1-drops, like if they cost 2 by the time that you're playing this, like fine. It's actually better that way.
Well, like a 2 mana 2/2 Divine Shield Taunt.
Yeah.
Right? Like sure. Yeah, so in that situation, it may be a sort of like just for the, well, you draw some cards and sometimes you high roll and get something really impactful for cheap. In other situations, you may actually not be running as many minions, and you're specifically trying to like mana discount stuff in
I just want
cheaty
to put
ways.
Blessing of Kings on it, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
And someone noted the reason it probably has one attack, this minion, is because Tyr exists, and Tyr resurrects a 2, 3, and 4 attack minion.
Yep.
And since
Yep.
all the Titans are minions, you don't want to have people resurrecting their
That's
Titan.
smart.
So
I'm glad we dodged that bullet.
yeah.
Yeah.
So then the other abilities, I forget if I said, but empowered, give your other minions +2/+2, and set the attack and health of all enemy minions to 2.
Yeah. So it's
pretty
so
good.
people wanted Sunkeeper Tarim, and now we've got this that's probably better because Tarim was the entire board.
So Tarim is well, I was going to say better offensively, but empowered does give your other minions +2/+2. Yeah, it's maybe better. Like it's just flexible, right? You're not getting the both things at once with Tarim, where it was like I make your stuff 3/3s and make my 1/1s 3/3s. But the fact that your minions can't take more than 2 damage at a time, and then you can just be like, cool, and now I buff them all +2/+2. So even if they were 1/1s, they can't die to any one of your minions. Like that's pretty solid.
Yeah. I think opponents are going to enjoy this about as much as they enjoyed Cariel. Like this seems.
But it's fine. The face of the paladin is still vulnerable. It's
as long as they're not playing the Divine
Divine
Shield spell.
Shield.
yeah. Well, half the classes have ping hero powers anyway. Yeah, I think this one will be pretty solid. Yeah.
All right.
So
that brings us to Khazgaroth, right? Which is the warrior titan.
Mm-hmm.
And which is a 6-mana 4/4. After this uses an ability, gain immune this turn and attack a random enemy minion. So it does 4 damage randomly to something on the board every time that you use an ability. And its abilities are Titan Forge, gain +2/+2, and draw a weapon. Heart of Flame, which is gain +5 health, give your hero 5 armor. And Tempering, gain +5 attack, give your hero +5 attack this turn. So clearly this is it's wants you to both be removing stuff on board and hitting things with your face, and it doesn't seem like it's a great Enrage Warrior card because it doesn't get damaged by itself unless you're hitting it with a location or something like that. But in a Control Warrior, this seems pretty decent to be able to remove things on board. I mean, especially if there's only a couple things on board and you know where it's going to go.
Yeah, it's one of that's I think definitely less flexible and therefore like just not as good of an all-around card. Like this will be a good anti-aggro card that like you remove a thing and you either gain some armor and make it tankier so that's harder for them to deal with, or you kill 2 things because it hits something and you attack something, or you draw your weapon, right? Like it has these utility things, but it's not just a box of value like the priest one. It's not really doing anything if your opponent doesn't have minions. So inherently, it's going to be worse in situations where they're playing a deck that doesn't have doesn't focus on minions, isn't very board based, or they're another control deck. Like I'm sort of mid on this one.
If you show this to a 2015 Warrior control player, they'd be like, "Oh, this is a nice card," but we're in 2023 now, and this card doesn't do anything. I mean, it's obviously fine. It's obviously, like you said, it's got some things it can do. But I did skip straight through this when I looked at it. I thought, I just don't think it does anything well enough to be scary.
Yeah. I mean, it's basically like a big instrument tech, right? Like that's kind of like the draw of it. which is
Uh-huh.
that's not a great sales pitch. To pay 6 mana for an instrument tech, like, instrument tech and a removal, but I don't know. It definitely could be a little bit better, but I guess we'll see what happens with it. But I mean,
maybe 6 mana, 6/6 draw your good card is enough, but I don't think
yeah.
so.
I mean, 6 mana, 6/6 do 6 to a minion. I mean, at least you're removing something the turn it comes out, right? You're not just like sitting there and playing a vanilla minion, so that's something. And it
You
depends
do
on what
2
weapon you
to
care
add in.
about, right? Yeah. So, but that's also not going to do a lot to protect it to get it to do the other two things. But I guess this is one where if it doesn't get to do the other two things, it's not as big of a deal because the things involve the minion itself anyway. I don't know. Is that a good thing
Yeah.
if it's bad? If it's so bad that you don't mind it getting removed? I guess that's not really a great selling point for it either. I don't know.
I mean, this is the Titan that I look at the most, and I'm like, I wish you could pick attack earlier, right? Like, I wish you could say, I want to use an ability or I want to attack. Because if you're able to like play this, make it a 6/6 to draw the weapon, and then next turn say, oh, they don't have any minions. I'd like to attack with my 6/6, please. But you can't do that. You have to use all the abilities on these Titans before they can attack. And so this is where that weakness, I think, really shows up, because there's going to be some times where it's like, well, there's no minion to hit. I guess I just buff it and like lose the, removal piece. I don't know.
Yeah, it's awkward. Yeah.
So moving on, because we still have a few of these to get through. We can go to Argus, the Emerald Star for Demon Hunter.
Now we're
And
talking. Now we've got a card.
yeah, so 7 mana, 5/9 Titan. Minions to the left of this have Rush, and ones to the right have Lifesteal. So a bit of positioning in terms of when you play it. I don't know. So generally, when you summon things, they summon to the right.
Correct.
So I guess that means the stuff you summon is off this is always going to be Lifesteal. But yeah, you've got first ability, discover a Death Rattle minion. It costs 3 less. That's Crystal Carving. Show of Force, reduce the cost of all minions in your hand by 2, because Demon Hunter just can't resist cost reduction with no restrictions. This is going to lead to some degenerate combo. It has to at some point. There's no way that it won't. I remember combos that existed off just Thaurissan, and now for 1 more mana, you get 2 ticks.
The days of discounting your brand so that you could shuffle 2 Cthunes back into your deck. Like,
yeah.
And we've come a long way since then.
I love this. This card's completely and utterly busted. It's great.
And I am told that in this particular summon case, they intentionally have here for Argonite Army, summon 4 2/2 elementals with taunt. 2 of them will summon on either side, so you get two of them that'll have Rush and 2 of them that will have the Lifesteal. So that's pretty cool. And all of them have taunt. Pretty solid. I guess, like, what's interesting is in the cases where whatever combo deck this goes into wants to control, then you can use that first ability first to kind of control the board. And then, I would guess that pretty much every other time they're going to be doing Show of Force first to reduce whatever their combo is by 2 and just go nuts.
Big fan of everyone complaining about Reno costing 6 in Demon Hunter for a year. Well, now it costs 7, but it kills you as well, so it's fine.
Yeah, and I mean, like, like Relic Demon Hunter already has room for a ton of garbage in that deck already.
Yeah,
Like it's running Maltradix and Okadi,
Mhm.
and like sometimes it's running Starfish, and like you can find a card slot for this in Relic Demon Hunter without trying too hard. And then you
there's
get to
9
discount
slots in
that
that
too.
deck. You're good.
Yeah. And then you get to give your 10/10s and 11/11s lifesteal. It seems fine, right? Like
Right.
I don't think you have to think too hard about how you would make use of this, you know.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be times, as you say, where it's just like, well, I didn't have any taunts because, just relics. I have these big dumb phantasms, but now I positioned this so they have life steals. So
Yeah.
It's okay. It's only got 9 health. You can just kill it, right? Just remove it from the board. It's
Yeah,
fine.
I think the interesting thing is that Demon Hunter doesn't have a ton of Death Rattle minions right now, so presumably we're going to get a bunch more of those, because like right now it has Shambling Chow, which is the 1 mana 2/3 that does 4 damage to you when it dies. A Jaren Defector, which is only played in like when it was discovered by Thief Rogue, and Crixus the Voracious, which is the battle cry, discard your hand, death rattle, draw 3 cards. So those don't seem like what you're targeting. I mean, obviously they're the neutrals, but I would expect we're going to be seeing a bunch of Death Rattle Demon Hunter cards coming back, because like I don't know what you're targeting, but those aren't it.
I
I'm sure
mean,
Jumbo will play Flesh Behemoth with it, and off you go.
Yeah,
It'll be fine.
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, and Mass Reveler too. Why not?
I kind of imagine that you just don't even care about this ability. That this is an ability that you get to do sometimes when the game goes that long, because really what you did was you reduced the cost of everything in your hand by 2, and then they died next turn. So, yeah, I guess it has a turn 3 ability if somehow they're not dead yet.
Yeah, or you just give your Mass Reveler lifesteal. That seems perfect. I think we solved it. Because it's already got rush.
Yeah.
It doesn't need rush from the ability.
Yeah, this is one of those that's just kind of go into any demon hunter that's not specifically aggro, and you call it a day.
Might go in there because all your cards cost 0 when you play it. So yeah. Say never.
But
Yeah,
usually you don't have any
yeah.
cards by that point.
Yeah. Outcast might
yeah.
not want it. It might block the left side of the hand. They might not want
True.
it, but otherwise,
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't make the like spell DH viable again, just because it can reduce the 2 mana card back to.
yeah,
Wait, no, they made it. Wait, they made it deal 1 damage now, not 2,
Perfect.
right? Or I forget what happened.
I don't know. They'll put it in a
Hopefully,
bounce
though.
soul.
You say that like it's a bad thing.
I did not specifically that card where you took damage for their minions hitting your minions.
Oh, Sinful Brand, yeah.
Yeah, Sinful Brand. Sinful Brand can stay dead, please.
They'll figure out
Yeah,
some other way
save-
to make
save
that
like-
deck broken. Like that just like it's like it's always teetering on the edge. It just needs like a little thing to push it over, like a light breeze, and then all of a sudden it's broken again.
Well, to take a step back from Demon Hunter, let's go over to Golganeth the Thunderer, which is the Shaman Titan. It is a 6 mana 5/7. Your first spell each turn costs 3 less. That includes the turn you play it, so you could play this and a Lightning Storm in the same turn, which is pretty nutty. But then it also has built in a lot of clears. So first ability, Roaring Oceans, deal 3 damage to all enemies and restore 6 health to all friendly characters. Pretty solid in terms of just, clear the board and gain a bunch of life. Lord of Skies, deal 20 damage to a minion, which, okay, we don't have Ashtongue Silas anymore, but I kind of wish we did, because that would be fun, where it's just like, oh, Golganeth lived? All right, let's just give you an Ashtongue, and then you can take 20. All right, fine. It's a little weird. And then probably the one that you're going to be doing a lot of the time, if you're doing this, Shargon's Wrath, draw 3 Overload cards.
So on 8 mana, you play this, and then you draw your Jive Insect, and you turn into Ragnaros. Seems good. Let's go.
what I thought when I saw this card is this defines Shaman. Like, Shaman's been
Yeah.
in a state of mess for a long time now. It's got some decks that you can play, but they don't feel like they're defined. They're just some cards that happen to work. This feels like someone sat down at the office and said, look, we need Shaman to do something. What does it do? And this card is what Shaman now does. I think this card's really good. I don't think it's busted. I don't think it's like, it's not making me wet myself laughing like the Demon Hunter card was. But I think this card is just super solid. You can do a lot of things with it, and just build a mid-range deck that does stuff.
Yeah.
It might be a bit too fair, but I think they've reset the class with this card, and then we just now know what Shaman is supposed to do. It's these things.
I'm just waiting for somebody to play this and then on the next turn criminal lineup and get 3 more of them.
Sweet.
So they can deal 20 damage to 4 minions, I guess.
And draw more. I mean, you could draw. So you play this, you draw your criminal lineup, right? Because that's your overload card, and then you have 3 more of them the next turn. Yeah.
And all your spells, your first spell costs 0. Yeah.
Yeah.
No matter what.
I mean,
and then you just burn their face off, I guess. I mean, that's. Well, I guess it's all. It's just your first spell will just cost 0. Because it's
you don't mind farsighting with this, right? The turn you play it, you just play this, play farsight, and get some value.
Yeah,
I think
that seems
it's
fine.
Exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, I could imagine a world where you like run very specific overload cards with this, where it's like you're just doing, control-y stuff, and you've got criminal lineup Jive Insect there. Although it does seem like they're leaning into like wanting you to have a lot of overload stuff with the weapon and everything. Maybe this gives some kind of slower Shaman a boost, but I think a lot of times, I mean, it could just go in there and you have maybe a few burn spells that it draws you at the top end of like, an aggressive or mid-rangey Shaman, and sometimes you need a board clear. Like, this reminds me of the Kalamos legendary, right? Kalamos Primal Lord, where it's just like you pick one of these elements and it's usually solid, like because you get a decent sized body, and sometimes you do need the board clear, sometimes you do need some life, sometimes you need some cards, right? Like, I don't think Kalamos gives you cards, but
fine, right? Brukan was a card you could play.
Yeah.
And it didn't do anything exciting in its own right. Like, sometimes it does you 6 damage to face, sometimes it puts some taunts in the way. Like,
yeah. I mean, I guess if you are going to do like the criminal lineup Jive Insect thing, that would draw both of them for you, and then you could, if you do that the turn you play it and it lives, like if they have any sort of a board to get in the way, you just wipe it out with the board clear, and then if you play that on 9, draw the overload cards, or just wipe everything out that turn. Right, and then the following turn, you 10 mana is going to be Jive Insect for 2, and then Criminal Lineup for 8. Right, even if you have to Jive Insect the Golgamath to get it to happen, right? Like, if they're dead, it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, this is one where it's just like it's a decent amount of value. It's gonna be impactful the turn you play it, especially if you make sure that you have 3 mana spells that you can do at the same time. And if it lives, I mean, like all of these, but particularly with the mana discount, like they're going to maybe be able to do something, cheaty with that mana discount. Unlike the Demon Hunter one, where it's just like, they have this turn where they play the thing and they discount their hand, and the next turn you probably die.
Yep, it seems very shamany.
Well, we should probably talk about the one that I guess everyone's going to be voting for, which is Sargeras the Destroyer, which is the Warlock Titan. In case you weren't sure, this is the evil one. 9 mana, 6/12 demon. Very notable. We do have a certain 4 mana 3/4 that summons demons when it dies. So you may see this earlier than turn 9.
You probably don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't think those are going to be on
Uh,
the same deck, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, you wouldn't get its battle cry, which is very important. Open a portal that summons 2/3/2 imps each turn. That is the one that we've seen a few times in Hearthstone's history and has not been good so far. Turns out that ability is not necessarily very strong for the costs that have been behind it before, which were empty your deck for Niru Fireblade and
It was discard 7 cards from
Discard
Safari
7 cards.
Sacrifice, which I opened 3 copies of in Journey to Ungoro, and no other legendaries, or maybe one other legendary. So yeah, I remember how I tried to make that work because I had no other choice. So...
Yeah. But the abilities to the Void send all other minions into the Twisting Nether, which is that a poof effect?
That is a poof effect. So they just get removed. There's an animation. They go into the portal, and the portal can't be removed, so they're just gone. So battle again, like the priest one, death rattles don't trigger. They can't be resurrected. They're just gone. It's like the Amazing Reno effect.
Yeah. And then we have Inferno, summon 2/6/6 Infernals from the Twisting Nether. I don't know that means anything except for the last ability, Legion Invasion. Future demons summoned from the Twisting Nether, which includes the portal 3/2s, have +2 health and taunt. So there's where you definitely don't want to miss out on the battle cry, because I think one of the better things to make the portal actually matter is you play this, you say future demon summoned from the Twisting Nether have +2 health and taunt, and now they're all 3/4 taunts, and you get 2 of them every turn.
Well, I think more importantly, all 3 abilities require the Twisting Nether to be on the board in order to function. So
Well,
if
yeah.
if you get this cheated out, you basically have a rock for 3 turns where you have to expend all the abilities before it can attack.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I thought you could still like send everything into the Twisting Nether or something.
If the Twisting Nether is not on the board, you can't send anything into it.
Oh.
Yeah, so there was a thread
about
there was a thread that Minty Fresh posted on Twitter with a lot of explanations, and basically all 3 of the abilities require the Twisting Nether to function. So if you Void Caller this, or if somebody Dirty Rats it, then you just basically sit there with 3 useless abilities, but you still need to use up those abilities before you can attack with Sargeras. So it's incredibly bad if you get it cheated out instead of paying for it, honestly.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
That's a relief.
But I mean,
that makes a lot more sense, because I was thinking you just cheat it out and make 2 6/6s and 6/12 that can attack later, and yeah, we'll have that for 3 mana or 4 mana.
Yeah.
So that makes more sense. That's good.
Yeah, but I mean, we played Amazing Reno at 10, right? With a much worse effect. I mean, arguably, some people would find it a benefit, right? Like the people who wanted to watch the world burn wanted to get the random cards out of it. But, that was competitively, it was a bad thing, right? To get the random cards out of it. This is 9 mana, wipe the board, poof the board, and then it's there. And then they have to remove it with a spell, or else then you have a 6/12 and 2 3/2s, and then those start growing, and then you can start pumping them up with the +2 health and taunt, and then you can get the 6/6s that are actually 6/8s with taunt, which is even bigger. And then like when you can get that to happen, that's a real thing, right? Like those 3/2s are hard to remove turn after turn when you get it to stick. The problem we've had with this effect before, it's been tied to like such a high cost that it's been, like you could get Niru to happen, but then you had to live through the fatigue, right? Like you had a limited amount of time. Like when you were able to like shuffle more things into your deck and avoid that fatigue timer, then Niru was a lot better, and you could do a lot of damage with it. So I think Sargeras will be the same thing. And if those are all taunts that are coming out, that's going to be incredibly annoying to deal with, because your opponent's just going to have to remove every turn. And most control decks, like it feels like they have infinite removal, but they don't. Like they're going to eventually run out of removal, and then those start doing actual damage. It's kind of like a Mograine effect after you work through the first couple of removals.
Yeah. Well, and if you get to play this proactively, where you like, you have the portal, you give them +2 health and taunt for the rest of the time, which like I think you always want to do that first if you can, because it's very necessary for making those imps relevant. but then next turn you get to summon 2 6/8 taunts from the Twisting Nether, right? Like it's just crazy able to stabilize you. So I'm glad that Warlock, which has been flagging particularly in terms of control, has like a real win condition now.
But how does it get there? Like Warlock has got to somehow not be dead here.
Well, their removal tools, I think, have actually been reasonable, right? They have Defile. I wouldn't be surprised if there's, another piece of removal printed in here to kind of like give them more of a deck. But they always have Twisting Nether at 8 mana to remove everything, but we just never had a deck that would care about playing an 8 mana remove anything because you didn't have a way to win, right? You either had to keep everything cheap so you could draw to your win condition, or like you just weren't doing much, right? Like
I'm
Like,
not
the curses
sold
were
at
the
all.
best,
I
the
assumed
closest.
this was a meme that people were voting for this because it looked like the worst one. I'm not the best card predictor, but I think this card's garbage because it costs 9 and that it won't be played at
Yeah.
all.
I guess it depends on combo decks, right?
Sure,
And-
that's fair.
Yeah. And
Like,
it depends
if
on how
they-
much the meta slows down, right? Like the meta's kind of getting slower now, and if this slows it down considerably to the point, and if it gets better removal, right? Like if you could get control Warlock to the point where like control Priest, or even where like Blood Decay is, right? Then and you can get this down, because like getting this down is not going to be that hard as long as you're not going to die to from hand damage the next turn. Right, like
Right.
you can play this on 9 as long as you're not like dead to like frozen touches. So it's just going to be a matter of living that long and keeping your health up, and maybe like the tools that they've gotten, they just haven't come together, and they haven't really had any way to win outside of like curses or like Curse of Agony nonsense, which doesn't even work because of Renathal, right? So like this is giving it a way to at least have some inevitability in the end game to have a control Warlock be potentially viable. It might not be this set. It might take another set to get there.
I was just going to say, we have got this card for the best part of 2 years, so
Right.
at some point it's probably fine. But I think at the moment it will make 0 impact.
Yeah. We'll have to see what
So-
else we get. Yeah. But I mean, it could be that it's just like people are really sad for a set and then they call for buffs. Or maybe they buff it to 8 or something crazy like that, which I can't imagine they would because it's Twisting Nether, but we've seen
I do
sillier things
suspect they're
before.
also sort of releasing the pieces of a control Warlock very slowly so they can monitor it, like Symphony came out last time.
Yeah.
It is slowly getting there. Maybe they're a little bit scared because metas with really powerful control Warlocks are as bad as metas with really powerful control Priests. They are horrible things.
Yep.
I
they sure
guess.
are.
Because the card draw is so consistent. So
Yeah.
maybe they're being very careful and just going to let us have a sniff of
Yeah.
a deck over time.
Yeah, or maybe they're waiting until Renathal rotates to really, take the reins off or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, I think we can safely move on to our Death Knight Titan here, the Primus, which does not have any runes, although some people have joked that it is blood runes. It is a pretty value-centered card. 8 mana, 7/9. After this uses an ability, discover a rune with that. Sorry, discover a card with that rune. And it has 1 for each. So Runes of Blood. Destroy an enemy minion. This minion and your hero gain its health. Runes of the Unholy. Summon 2 3/3 undead with Taunt and Reborn. So that's quite the wall. And then Runes of Frost. The next spell you cast costs 3 less and has spell damage +3.
Is
This
this the
is-
start of the admission that triple rune decks are really boring?
Yeah.
This is where we get sort of slowly coerced into playing more interesting rune decks. I think it might be. It seems interesting.
Or at least like this is so they made this runeless because I think they didn't want the DK Titan to like only be able to be played by some DKs. So this can go in anything, but it gives, any kind of DK access to at least one card that they'll discover from the other runes. That was already kind of true with discovering stuff from Wicked Good's favorite card, Vizier.
Oh, okay, it just needs to get out.
But yeah, you can get some of that. I think all the abilities are pretty solid. The one that's probably going to be a little trickier to use is the Runes of Frost, because you need to have spells that care about spell damage. So Unholy is the one that's maybe a little more of a loser in this, because unless they discover something that benefits from spell damage, none of their spells really care about that.
Yeah.
But
I mean, you
I
still
think
have
if
things
you're-
like Plague Strike and stuff like that. I mean, that's not what you're looking
Yeah.
for, but if you need like a removal, you can get it. And I mean,
Sure.
I would imagine that the optimal order is probably going to be Blood Unholy Frost anyway, right? So like,
I think you could
pro-
interchange Unholy or Blood. Which one goes first?
yeah. I mean, the thing with Blood is that it helps it survive longer. I mean, I guess they both do, but it actually like gives it more health to make it harder to remove.
Sure.
But either way, like Frost is probably going to be the last one you're doing anyway. So that's going to give you 2 discovers to find something. Like Blood Boil is fine, right? Like if you got Blood Boil with cost 3 less, spell damage +3, you're probably fine with that, right? Or I mean, even there are some unholy ones that do damage again, like Plague Strike's one. And like you have other discovers in a deck like this, surely, that you'd be able to find something to do. That's not necessarily like Glacial Advance, but there's plenty of like damage based spells that you'd be able to find something to do with it.
I suspect this only sees plays in Blood or not at all immediately. I think it go or in something that somebody else creates that doesn't exist yet, that is built around this card, because as it stands, I don't think you need the things it does. You already do better.
Yeah.
Like Marogar exists. Why would you put this in Unholy? Discover exists in Blood. You might want more of that stuff. I can see that argument, but also you can do that better with, like you say, Vizier, School Teacher, all that stuff. Frost is already kind of perfect 30 build, so I don't think this really slides in there. So this goes in something new or nothing.
Right.
And I think honestly, the way Death Knight is, if it goes in nothing, good.
Yeah. I mean,
It's really strong enough.
I mean, if the deck that if somebody figures out a deck that plays the 10 mana rainbow card, then this probably goes in it, right?
Yes.
Like
yeah.
that would be one thing that I would think that it might go in, but I mean Blood will run it, because I mean Blood is running the greediest crap right now, and it's fine, right? Like Blood's still running Denathrius from time to time.
Yeah,
So-
yes, we saw one of those downstream.
Oh,
Yeah.
So like you could probably take your Denathrius out and put in the Primus and you'll be fine, right? Like
Sure.
like I think Blood will probably appreciate this. The other two, unless there's like a slower Frost or a slower Unholy that comes around, I don't see it happening. No.
Yeah, or
I
like
say things.
a Frost deck that uses the 3 mana spell that does 3 damage to one target, 1 damage to all the other targets, right? Then you get to do 6 and 4, which is pretty good spread. But I imagine, it's kind of like Rainbow Blood or something that doesn't exist yet. But it's cool that you can throw it in anything. I like it.
True. And again, I said it flippantly, but I kind of also mean it. If this doesn't see play immediately, I don't think that's the worst thing for the game as a whole.
Yeah,
I think
that's
it's
fine.
fine.
Yeah. It would be nice if Death Knights would play the cards in their deck from time to time.
It really would, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Well, that brings us to our final Titan here, V07 Tron, which is
Voltron.
the rogue. Yes, it's the rogue Titan, which we had thought there would not necessarily be a mech Titan based on lore reasons, but we did know that they were creating some new ones. This appears to be that. A 6 mana 3/5 mech. I believe this is the only Titan with a minion type. Oh no, Sargeras is a demon. But other than that, I think they spelled Titan in Leet speak just because. This minion's ability is repeat on another random friendly minion. The fact that it costs 6 means that you can potentially go 9 mana to play this and the spider to give it stealth after it's used its ability. And you're not missing out on attack damage because you couldn't attack anyway. The abilities are attach the cannons, gain +2/+1, deal 4 damage to a random enemy. So if you have another minion in play, they both get the buff and you deal 4 damage twice to random enemies. Full power, gain +1/+2, draw a card. And maximize defenses, gain +3 health, and can't be targeted by spells or hero powers.
I mean, 10 out of 10 flavor. It tells you which order to play the cards in, what happens, and what the thing is doing. It's fantastic. I don't think it's a playable card, but the flavor is fantastic on this card. I absolutely adore it.
Yeah, and important, very important to note, it does the one that says can't be targeted does not say can't be targeted by opponents' spells or hero powers. So you can't target it either. So don't, because there's going to be somebody who tries to shadow step this immediately after using that, and they're going to be sad and good.
Yeah, and I want to watch them do it.
Yeah.
Changing states, you lose any, effects like that anyway. So if you do full power and step, it won't have the +1/+2 anymore. Although you can on 10 mana go play this, attach the cannons, and if you have a minion in play, right, you deal 8 damage and then you step it and then you replay it and you do attach the cannons again and that's another 8 damage. So be wary of a rogue on 10 mana with 1 minion in play and you having no minions in play because you'll just take 16 damage.
I'm already annoyed. Like I was feeling better about this being bad, and now you're annoying. Now you're making me annoyed again. So, I mean, it's weird just because like we don't have a ton of mechs in. I mean, I guess we're clearly getting a bunch in the set because we're getting magnetic and rogue where we don't have a ton of mechs. But I mean, especially given like the bananas, powers on some of the other ones, this seems kind of fragile. I mean, unless you're going maximize defenses immediately, in which case you're also, I mean, which is fine because that means they're not shadow stepping it. So maybe that's fine. It's a 3/8, can't be targeted. So maybe that's just going to stick around enough anyway. But like the powers seem kind of modest, a lot, kind of how the hunter ones do if you're on first glance, though, if you have a bunch of minions on board or 1 minion on board that you care about, maybe then this becomes, kind of snowballs in a hurry. I guess that this is one of the ones that if you do put the can attack on it first, it's one of the ones that's going to be most likely to be able to attack at the end of it, which is also going to be kind of big at that point.
What if, because of the other cards in the set, this is just never 3/5 when it comes down, and it's actually a 8 with stealth the turn you play it because of what all the other mechs are doing to your board?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it could go in Menagerie Rogue, which is something people have tinkered around with and it's been like sort of but having, something like this in there could be pretty impactful just because, you've got Magatha for card draw, you've got your one amalgam band in there. This is just like another value thing that since you're a minion based deck, you're like it doesn't actually care about you having other mechs, just other minions to do this stuff. So and then as you say, there is that spider tank minion that you can magnetize to give a stealth. So I've always liked the rogues that are just like minion heavy, like play stuff and go, like odd rogue. I know it's the kind of rogues that everyone else hates because they want to do miracle things, but this just sort of seems to me like a pretty value mid-range card, which is...
It feels fair though. Like that's what it like it feels fair adjacent at least, right?
Yeah, it feels fair, but I think there'll definitely be times where it will feel not so very fair. Just
like when you
because
rip it from a hazy, you mean? Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah. Oh, I just realized somebody's going to use this to put can't be targeted on a Hanar. and I'm gonna be so irritated.
I mean, it's the rogue thing of, right, like, well, it's solid. We'll put it in rogue decks, I guess. You know, not
I mean,
Miracle, but
like, Krabatoa is fine, right? I mean, like Krabatoa,
Yeah.
it's kind of like on par with Krabatoa. It's not. I don't think it's as good as Krabatoa, but it's, you know, it feels like a commensurate amount of value, just kind of organized a little bit differently.
I do think you really want to run the 1 mana 2/1 that reduces the cost of your next mech, just so
Yeah.
that you at least have a way of guaranteeing you have another minion, right? So that you can always go 2/1, play this Titan, you have 8 damage, right? Because
Yeah, you really
you
want
have
8
another
damage.
target to hit.
Yeah.
But there's going to be times where you need this to remove minions with that damage, and it's going to miss. So take comfort in that, Wicked.
I mean, like every single time that I need a skeleton to hit a minion, and it goes face every single time. Like that's just science. That's just how those work. They're coded that way.
We'll have to see. Yeah, I don't know. This is one where it might just be competing with Krabatoa and not end up seeing play, or it might just like be in anything not Miracle that's a rogue, because it is usually solid. We'll have to see. And that wraps it up on the Titans. But you know, card evaluation episodes do tend to be long, but
And these are complicated cards too. I mean, these are 4
Yeah.
cards in one, effectively.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah. And
But-
I guess it's worth reminding before we close out the show that we are going to have our card reveal on July 18th at 8 p.m. Eastern on the stream. So twitch.tv/CoinConcede podcast. So, you know, we'll have a lot more cards to talk about. I mean, we're going to be talking about cards next week too, but you know, we're excited for the reveal and we want to get a bunch of people here for the Twitch stream. So, make sure to circle that in your calendars.
Yeah. Well, very glad we could have you on, Lorinda.
Yeah.
And we have many folks we'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at coinseed.com, where you can also find our contact info, our show notes, and our Patreon information. You can monetarily support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch at twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. And write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at CoinConcede, as well as like, share, and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/CoinConcede. If you would like some CC swag, head on over to our shop at shop.coinconcede.com. And I think we have our, you know, a little late for the month, but I think we got our Pride shirt up.
They are in fact there.
For CoinConcede.
Yeah,
They are
not
there,
just shirts,
so-
like all kinds of things. We have several different types of shirts. I'm pretty sure we have like water bottles and other stuff too, with that logo on it. So,
It was sort of the simplest thing I could wrangle together in time. I'll try and make a fancier one for next year. But yeah, if you're going to BlizzCon, we didn't talk about it, but the first wave of tickets went on sale. We should all be able to be there and do live coverage. We'd love to see some of y'all there at BlizzCon. And yeah, maybe we can spot you from the CC merch. So big thank you to our producers, Number Theory, Doge TK, Kresh, Cap, Beef Squatch, David P, Walu, Jeremy T, Bottle Caps, Grumpy Monk, The Burger Club, Kirk Regan, Forgiven One, and Enraged Chicken. Coin Concedes, I'm going to let you go first, Wicked, because I think I have to look up mine.
I'm gonna coin concede to Raharang, who was able to get me an invite to Blue Sky after I was complaining on Twitter last week when things were going poorly. So, not a lot of Hearthstone folks there right now. Though Hat apparently joined 5 minutes before I did, so I've just been basically going through his following list every day and following whoever's there. But I appreciate that. I think it'll be good once more people get in there. Though it's a little bit sparse right now, but it's kind of got an old school Twitter before all of the bots and hate monitors took over kind of vibe. So, yeah, so I appreciate that.
And then I have a list of people who got stuff from the baby registry. So I'm just going to do first names here. Coin Concedes to Stephanie, David, Kathleen, Katrina. Well, some of these are not card game people. But, oh, hey, there's a Stephen Maureen here.
Yeah. We did it finally before everything was gone. So, yeah.
And I forget if I thanked Hat on the podcast yet, but Hat got us a very nice gift as well. And I think these are the ones I already thanked. So Coin Concede to all those folks. Thank you again for getting us stuff from our registry. Really helps. It's going to be hopefully 4 weeks, but realistically, any minute now.
No pressure.
Yeah. Miranda, any
Um,
Coin Concedes?
I've got about 830 of these. I don't know, just everybody who's been like looking after me since I got back into streaming, and obviously you people for having me on today. I'm just enjoying myself being around the community again. It's been great fun. So,
Yeah.
shout out just to everyone.
It's been fun having
How
you back streaming every day.
can you be?
It's been good having you around to watch, especially on the weekends and on the Mondays and Fridays when I'm not in meetings. It's been good to have you as kind of a constant presence, and it's always fun and educational, often at the same time.
You learn a lot of new swear words, I'm sure. Yeah.
And do make sure to follow Lorinda, twitch.tv/Lorinda. Is it with the 0 or is it with the?
It's with a 0. Yeah, my branding is horrific. It's with a 0.
But we'll have a link in the show notes as well. But go follow. It is an extremely good stream to follow, and you get a lot of good insight from a lot of folks. But I think that's gonna do it. So until next time, keep calm and protect your titans. And if you see us on ladder, Coin Concede.
Coin Concede.
Coin Concede? You see how often I've watched the show, right?
Yeah, it's fine. We'll fix it in post.
Yeah, you can feel free to push stop on the recording now. And
yes,
yeah, if you
the big square.
Yeah, and if you just export it the way you did the 15-second one, it'll just take a little bit longer.
Awesome.
And then I'll give you a link to where to drop that, so Edel can get it. And thanks everybody for hanging out in the stream tonight. Appreciate everybody coming out. We should find someone to raid, so we can let Neil get to bed.
Yes.
It's very
Thank
late.
you so much. Sorry, it ended up going a little bit over there.
Whatever.
Cards are tough to do quickly.
We could raid Sway. Did we raid Sway? Have we raided Sway recently? I don't remember.
Probably, but that's fine.
That's fine. Yeah, we'll raid Sway. That's fine. I need to do that from the other one. Okay. So we're gonna wait Sway Bay. She plays Battlegrounds. She's awesome. Go give her a follow. And we'll be back next week. So have a wonderful. Well, I guess we got 10 seconds before the raid goes because I was talking too fast. But we'll be raiding Sway, and everybody say hi, and we'll see you next week. Bye.